Chapter 685. The Garden of the 100 Flowers was completely destroyed. Nearly 200 guards were killed. Dozens of alchemists were killed. What kind of disastrous loss was this? 20% of the Duanmu clan's businesses would be affected. They would lose at least a few billion spiritual stones. The Duanmu clan had never suffered such a great loss in the past 100 years. Duanmu Huang was furious. He was so angry that he almost fainted. However, he was a powerful soul refining stage cultivator after all. He was the clan leader of the Duanmu clan. He quickly suppressed his anger and calmed down. He thought that the person who could break into the Garden of the 100 Flowers alone, kill the 4 commanders and thousands of people, and destroy the entire herb garden must be a powerful soul refining stage cultivator. There were very few soul refining stage cultivators in the Central Plains. It was easy to find out who they were. He couldn't figure out who could be so bold as to destroy the Garden of the 100 Flowers in broad daylight. It was a declaration of war against the Duanmu clan. No matter who it was, they would have to suffer the Duanmu clan's anger and revenge. After a while, Duanmu Huang finally calmed down. He asked in a deep voice, "Did you see what the man in the white robe looked like? What was his cultivation level? What kind of magical weapon did he use?" The 2 guards looked at each other and frowned. After a while, they answered carefully, "Clan leader, we were far away. We didn't see his face clearly." "Clan leader, the man in the white robe is at least Sky Origin Stage Level 7. He didn't use any magical weapon. He only used one palm strike to destroy the 4 palaces." Duanmu Huang was stunned. He asked in disbelief, "What? He isn't a soul refining stage cultivator. He is only at Sky Origin Stage. How could he break into the herb garden alone and kill the 4 commanders and thousands of people?" The 2 guard captains were at a loss for words. They didn't know how to respond. After all, it was too shocking. They had never heard of such a thing before. "Ha ha ha. You are just a nobody at the 7th level of Sky Origin Stage. How could you destroy our herbal garden and kill over 1,000 of our people? What kind of joke was this? If this news were to spread, I'm afraid everyone in the world would laugh their heads off." Duanmu Huang was so angry that he actually laughed. However, even though the expression on his face was smiling, his tone was as cold as ice and contained a murderous intent that soared into the sky. The entire study room was shrouded in an invisible murderous aura and chilliness. The temperature dropped to freezing point, causing the guard commander and the 2 guard captains to shiver. Duanmu Huang frowned and pondered for a moment before he ordered the 2 guard captains to leave for the time being. He quickly came up with a countermeasure. He asked the commander of the guards to find 2 elders and bring a few experts and a large number of guards to the 100 Flower Garden to check on the situation. Baihua Garden had been destroyed. With such a big thing happening, it was only right for him to personally check on the situation. However, the situation within Duanmu Manor was even worse. He couldn't leave for the time being and had to hold down the fort within the manor. Otherwise, if he wasn't in the Duanmu estate, there would definitely be even greater chaos in the estate. An hour passed quickly, and dawn finally arrived. When the sky was slightly bright, the 2 elders of the Duanmu family brought 8 Sky Prime experts and over 100 guards to the 100 Flower Garden at lightning speed. Duanmu Huang sat in the study room and ordered the guard commander with a gloomy face, "Pass down my orders." An hour later, all the elders, registrars and deacons are to gather in the main hall for a meeting. Not long after the guard commander turned and left, he returned with a terrified expression and rushed into the study room. "Family head. Something bad has happened. Something has happened to the Longevity Garden." The guard commander was already trembling with fear. When he reported this news, he was extremely terrified and his voice trembled. Duanmu Huang's expression instantly changed. He stood up with a swoosh and asked furiously, "What happened? What happened to the Longevity Garden?" The guard commander was so frightened that his face turned pale. He immediately knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, "Family head." The guard captains and alchemists of the Longevity Garden rushed back to report that the Longevity Garden has also been destroyed. What? Duanmu Huang's eyes widened and his eyeballs almost popped out. His pupils instantly turned blood red. The Longevity Garden. It's also been destroyed. He shouted angrily, emphasizing each word. Without a doubt, this sudden news did not bring him an even greater blow. It was a disaster that could destroy heaven and earth. The Longevity Garden was the lifeblood of the Duanmu family. It was the most important herb garden and was equivalent to the lifeline of the Duanmu family. Even 200 flower gardens added together were not as important as one Longevity Garden. Duanmu Huang was so angry that his entire body trembled. The veins on his forehead were throbbing non-stop. He only regained his senses after a long while. "Get them in here." The guard commander immediately felt as if he had been pardoned and hurriedly left the study room. After a while, he led 3 guard captains and 2 alchemists into the study room, trembling with fear. After these guard captains and alchemists entered the study room, they knelt on the ground and reported with sobbing voices, "Family head. Someone invaded the Longevity Garden and destroyed all the herb mountains." Not only were more than a dozen herb mountains turned into ruins, even the heavenly wind fire bird was killed by that person. "Family head, quickly go and take a look. The entire herb garden has been turned into ruins." When Duanmu Huang heard the news reported by these people, his vision instantly darkened. His chest felt extremely stifled and painful. Pfft! The incomparable anger and heavy blow caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His body trembled a few times and he could not stand steadily. His footsteps staggered and he was about to fall. Fortunately, the guard commander reacted quickly and hurriedly reached out to support Duanmu Huang, preventing him from falling. "Family head. Family head, what happened to you? Quickly wake up." The guard commander shouted anxiously and hurriedly helped Duanmu Huang sit down on a large chair. Duanmu Huang was so angry that he almost fainted. It took him a while to regain his senses. When he opened his eyes again, his eyeballs were dark red and filled with blood. His entire body was burning with blood-red flames. The Longevity Garden. "It's been destroyed too," Duanmu Huang muttered in a daze. His tone was filled with grief, indignation, and despair. He looked at the guard captains and alchemists kneeling on the ground and suddenly revealed a bitter cold smile. In an indifferent tone, he shouted, "The Longevity Garden has been destroyed. Why are you still alive?" As his voice fell, he suddenly raised his broad right palm and released a blood-red light condensed from his murderous aura. He fiercely slapped at the 3 guard captains and 2 alchemists. Bang! In a deafening muffled sound, the 3 guard captains and 2 alchemists were smashed into pieces on the spot by the blood-red light and turned into a pile of flesh and blood on the ground. Even so, Duanmu Huang still could not vent his anger. The murderous aura around his body had not dissipated. He stood up with a cold expression and walked out of the study with a monstrous murderous aura. He hurried to the Duanmu family's main hall. "Immediately gather everyone. I will personally bring people to the Longevity Garden." Chapter 686. The destruction of the 100-flower garden only affected the Duanmu family's business by 20%. However, the destruction of the Longevity Garden dealt a heavy blow to the Duanmu family. At least 40% of their business was affected. The loss of the 2 herb gardens was enough to cause the Duanmu family to lose 60% to 70% of their business. It would be difficult for them to recover within 10 years. Although Duanmu Huang appeared calm on the surface and could still act normally and issue orders, he was already on the verge of exploding. But in reality, he was already on the verge of going berserk from his rage. He was like a volcano that could erupt at any moment. His face was as black as the bottom of a pot. His eyes were blood red, and his entire body was surrounded by a blood-red murderous aura. Anyone who saw him was intimidated by his aura and kept quiet out of fear. Even the few elders and managers who had been fighting openly and covertly during this short period of time tactfully chose to remain silent and quiet. After Duanmu Huang entered the main hall, he announced the news and gave a few orders to the elders, managers, and deacons. Just last night, a mysterious powerful figure barged into the 100-flower garden and the longevity garden. He destroyed the 2 herb gardens and killed thousands of people, including the heavenly wind fire bird. This person destroyed the herb gardens of the Duanmu family. This is a declaration of war against us. No matter who he is or what kind of background he has, the Duanmu family will be irreconcilable with him. Elder Yang, each of you will lead 10 powerful figures and 100 guards to the spiritual herb garden and the greenwood garden to prevent that mysterious powerful figure from invading. Second elder, third elder, fourth elder, and sixth elder, follow me to the longevity garden to investigate the situation. First elder and fifth elder, stay in the residence and don't allow anyone to cause trouble. Otherwise, you will be killed on the spot. Duanmu Huang announced the order with a murderous aura. Then, he personally led 4 elders, more than 10 deacons, and more than 100 guards to the longevity garden. When everyone heard that the longevity garden and the 100-flower garden had been destroyed, they were shocked and furious. They finally understood why Duanmu Huang was so angry. After the news spread out, the entire Duanmu estate was in an uproar, and everyone fell into panic and terror. Everyone understood what the destruction of the 2 herb gardens meant. The Duanmu family's disaster had arrived. About 4 hours later, the sun was high up in the sky. Duanmu Huang brought many elders, deacons, and guards with him. Riding on spirit birds, they arrived at the longevity garden in a grandiose manner. When they arrived at the longevity garden, they could see the garden from a distance. The longevity garden, which was originally lush and verdant, was now in ruins. The 1,000-tall herb mountains had all collapsed, and the mountain ranges had also shattered and collapsed. Within a radius of 200 miles, the left half of the area was filled with scorched earth and ruins, while the right half was filled with white glaciers and frozen earth. In the entire medicinal garden, not a trace of green could actually be seen. Upon seeing this, Duanmu Huang, the elders, and the deacons were infuriated, and their hearts were bleeding. Duanmu Huang led the crowd to the palace at the entrance of the herb garden. When the thousands of guards, alchemists, and servants saw the arrival of Duanmu Huang and the rest, they immediately regained their confidence. Everyone immediately stopped talking and making noise, and bowed to pay their respects. After Duanmu Huang landed, his face darkened. He shouted in a hoarse voice, "Gather everyone in the herb garden and interrogate them carefully about what happened. Kill anyone who dares to hide the truth or refuse to cooperate with the investigation." Following his order, the hundreds of guards immediately started to move. They gathered the thousands of people and guarded them strictly. More than 10 deacons began to interrogate these people. Duanmu Huang personally led 4 elders to the sky above the longevity garden to carefully observe the ruins of the battlefield. They were all martial arts powerhouses with extensive knowledge. After observing the herb garden for a while, they were able to find many clues. An hour later, the 4 elders flew back to Duanmu Huang and reported the clues they had found. According to the situation on the battlefield, there was only one intruder. The intruder's strength should only be at the divine origin stage, but he used a magic weapon. According to the aura left on the battlefield, the magic weapon should be an ice magic weapon. There is still a lot of hot magma left on the scorched earth ruins on the left. It should be caused by the earth fire. The firebird of heavenly wind has been killed. With its strength, only a soul-refining stage expert or a soul-level magic weapon can kill it. Duanmu Huang also said expressionlessly in a deep voice, "The array guarding the longevity garden is a soul-level array. The intruder found the weak point hidden deep in the ground. He probably used a magic weapon to break the array's weak point and tear a hole. Although the crowd had found many useful clues, they still could not find out who the intruder was. They only knew that the intruder was a man in a white robe. They did not know the intruder's age, appearance, body characteristics, and so on. Duanmu Huang led the 4 elders back to the palace at the entrance of the herb garden and asked the deacons about the results of their questioning. The various deacons interrogated many guards, odd-job workers, and pharmacists, and had a clearer understanding of the battle situation at that time. However, they still did not know the identity of the white-robed expert and did not find any useful clues. At this moment, a divine origin stage guard commander flew to Duanmu Huang as fast as lightning and reported the news with a voice full of fear. "Master! There is more news. Something happened in the herb garden." The sudden news silenced everyone on the spot. Duanmu Huang, the elders, and the deacons all stiffened. Their eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. Countless people cursed angrily. Their faces were ashen and their fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. They wanted to cut the intruder into pieces. Duanmu Huang did not lose his composure on the spot. His expression was as cold as an iceberg as usual. Heh heh heh. As expected, the spiritual herb garden was also destroyed. Then his next target would be the greenwood garden. What a vicious bastard. He actually destroyed 3 of our herb gardens in one night. Does he want to completely destroy our Duanmu clan? Duanmu Huang laughed coldly. He quickly calmed down and made a series of arrangements. When he found out that the longevity garden was destroyed, he was already extremely angry. Now, even when he found out that the herb garden was destroyed, he was not so angry anymore. In the next 4 hours, Duanmu Huang and the elders repeatedly investigated the longevity garden. They used various clues to almost reconstruct the scene when the herb garden was destroyed. However, they still could not identify the identity of the mysterious expert. The white-robed expert seemed to have appeared out of thin air. Duanmu Huang and the 4 elders were extremely angry and anxious. However, they had no clue. Helpless, Duanmu Huang ordered the soul-herding hall to go out in full force and do their best to investigate the clues. Just as Duanmu Huang and the rest were at their wits' end, a guard commander suddenly rushed over to report the news. Reporting to the Patriarch. There is a middle-aged expert outside the herb garden who calls himself Lu Yunjinren. He says that he has an important matter to discuss with you. Lu Yunjinren. Duanmu Huang frowned and thought for a while. His tone was cold as he shouted angrily, "I have never heard of this person. What kind of Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to see me? Ask him to scram. If he dares to pester me, kill him." Duanmu Huang was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. However, someone came to see him. How could he be happy? However, the guard commander added another sentence. Chapter 687. The entrance to the Garden of Longevity was a 100-meter-high stone gate. There were 18 guards guarding the gate, and outside the gate was a flat grassland. 2 middle-aged men, one tall and one short, were standing on the grassland, waiting quietly. The tall and thin middle-aged man was wearing a robe embroidered with cloud patterns. He wore a feathered crown and held a silver horsetail whisk in his hand. He looked like a hermit. The middle-aged man next to him was short and fat. He wore a black robe and was dressed as a guard. Although they seemed to be waiting quietly for their summons. But in fact, the 2 of them were secretly communicating with each other through spiritual sense. The black-robed guard asked calmly, "Demon King, are you really going to talk to the Duanmu Huang face to face?" The middle-aged man frowned and scolded him sternly, "Shueli, remember to call me." "Oh, no, call me Lu Yunjinren. Don't let the cat out of the bag." The black-robed guard quickly said, "Demon. Sir, Although we have taken over the bodies of 2 humans and used a secret technique to disguise ourselves as humans, the Duanmu Huang is a powerhouse in the soul refining stage. If he sees through your disguise, your life will be in danger. Lu Yunjinren said confidently, "Don't worry, my secret technique has been perfected. There will be no flaws." Besides, the Duanmu Huang must be furious with the upheaval of the Duanmu family and only care about finding clues to the murderer. He must be overjoyed to suddenly know about the murderer. Why would he think so much? As long as my plan succeeds, I will be able to cause chaos in the world. It will be worth risking my life. Xueli was shocked and confused. He quickly asked, "Sir, isn't your plan to use the Duanmu family to deal with Ji Tianqing? How can you cause chaos in the world?" Lu Yunjinren said impatiently, "Humph. I have great foresight. How can you understand the situation that I see and think about? I don't have time to explain it to you now. If the plan succeeds, I will tell you the reason." Xueli was still worried and asked again, "Sir, how can you be so sure that the Duanmu Huang hasn't found out that the murderer is Ji Tianqing?" Daoist Master Flowing Cloud explained with a playful tone, "Ever since we came to Zhong Province, we have only done one thing, and that is to keep an eye on Ji Tianqing day and night. Therefore, we know his whereabouts like the back of our hands." On the other hand, the Duanmu clan had many matters to attend to and had many enemies. It was impossible for them to keep an eye on Ji Tianqing all the time. Therefore, they definitely did not know all of Ji Tianqing's whereabouts and movements. The Duanmu Huang would never have imagined that Ji Tianqing would be so audacious as to destroy their herb garden. The guard, Xueli, was stunned for a moment, then suddenly understood. His eyes were filled with admiration. "My lord is indeed wise and far-sighted. This subordinate wishes my lord's plan a success and all your wishes come true." Daoist Master Flowing Cloud nodded slightly and said, "All right, it's too early to talk about this now. Wait until I meet the Duanmu Huang face to face. In order to avoid being exposed, you don't have to follow me in later. Stay here and wait." Xueli quickly nodded and said through telepathy, "This subordinate obeys. I await your good news." Not long after, a guard commander walked out of the gate of the Longevity Garden. He came in front of Daoist Master Flowing Cloud and Xueli and said calmly, "Daoist Master Flowing Cloud, my master invites you in. Please follow me." After that, the guard commander led Daoist Master Flowing Cloud through the gate and into the Longevity Garden. About 15 minutes later, the guard commander led Daoist Master Flowing Cloud into the main hall of a palace. In the spacious and bright main hall, there stood 4 Duanmu clan elders in purple robes. The Duanmu Huang had already retracted his murderous aura and his pupils had returned to normal. He was sitting on the throne at the head of the hall. When Daoist Master Flowing Cloud stepped into the main hall, the gazes of the Duanmu Huang and the 4 elders all landed on him, carefully sizing him up. Daoist Master Flowing Cloud felt everyone's gaze and his heart tightened slightly. He was a little nervous, worried that he would be exposed. Fortunately, he had perfectly concealed his aura and did not reveal any abnormalities or flaws. He walked to the middle of the main hall with a calm expression and stood still. He bowed respectfully to the Duanmu Huang. "I am Mu Flowing Cloud. Greetings to clan leader Duanmu." The Duanmu Huang retracted his scrutinizing gaze and nodded slightly. "You may rise, Daoist Master Flowing Cloud." Only then did Daoist Master Flowing Cloud raise his head and look calmly at the Duanmu Huang. Although the Duanmu Huang's expression was calm and composed, he could see that the Duanmu Huang's heart was burning with anger and anxiety. This gave him more confidence and made him look forward to his plan. The Duanmu Huang did not beat around the bush and asked straightforwardly, "Daoist Master Flowing Cloud, do you know who the culprit who destroyed the herb garden is?" "That's right." Daoist Master Flowing Cloud nodded without hesitation. The Duanmu Huang frowned and looked at him with a sharp gaze. He said in a dignified tone, I have yet to find the culprit. How would you know? Don't tell me that you happened to pass by the longevity garden and saw the culprit destroying the herb garden. Clearly, the Duanmu Huang did not trust Taoist Master Flowing Cloud. Even if he had a glimmer of hope and allowed Taoist Master Flowing Cloud to meet him, he still kept his guard up. Taoist Master Flowing Cloud revealed a playful smile and explained without hesitation. Clan leader Duanmu, you must be joking. I did not pass by this place by chance. I have been following the culprit and saw him destroy the longevity garden with my own eyes. Hearing this, the Duanmu Huang raised his eyebrows and asked doubtfully, You have been following the culprit? Why? Taoist Master Flowing Cloud cupped his hands and said with a serious expression, To tell you the truth, clan leader Duanmu, I am from the Myriad Spirit Tower. I have recently received a bounty mission, so I have been following that white-robed youth. I did not expect that white-robed youth to be so daring and scheming to destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden. I guessed that clan leader Duanmu would be furious, so I wanted to do you a favor and form a good relationship with the Duanmu family. That is why I have come to tell you the identity of that white-robed youth. Hearing the 3 words Myriad Spirit Tower, the Duanmu Huang nodded slightly and vaguely understood something. The 4 elders in the main hall also looked at each other. Taoist Master Flowing Cloud's vigilance dissipated. The Myriad Spirit Tower was one of the top powerhouses in the Middle State. It was an assassin organization that struck fear in people. Across the entire Tianxian continent, the Myriad Spirit Tower was the undisputed leader among the countless assassin organizations. Anyone below the spirit refinement stage could not escape the assassination of the Myriad Spirit Tower. Even elite warriors at the spirit refinement stage had been successfully assassinated by the Myriad Spirit Tower. Of course, the Duanmu Huang knew that the strength of the Myriad Spirit Tower could not be underestimated. He looked at Taoist Master Flowing Cloud with a burning gaze and asked in a low voice, You are an assassin from the Myriad Spirit Tower. Who is the white-robed youth that you want to assassinate? Taoist Master Flowing Cloud nodded with a smile and said with a playful tone, That white-robed youth is not only my assassination target, he is also someone that clan leader Duanmu hates to the bone. Chapter 688. Ji Tianqing. How could it be him? Duanmu Huang was stunned on the spot. He let out a cry of disbelief. The 4 patriarchs in the hall all changed their expressions. They were shocked and couldn't believe it. They started to whisper to each other. Duanmu Huang frowned and stared at Venerable Lu Yun. He said in a deep voice, Ji Tianqing is just an ant in Sky Origin Stage 3. How could he break into the longevity garden and destroy our herb garden? Venerable Lu Yun, you should know the consequences of lying to me. The 4 patriarchs quieted down and stared at Venerable Lu Yun. They wanted to see how he would explain. Venerable Lu Yun was still calm and composed. He smiled playfully. Heh, I knew you would react like this. It is just as unbelievable as when I saw Ji Tianqing break into the longevity garden, kill the ancient demonic beast and destroy the herb garden. He waved the silver horsetail whisk in his hand and said slowly, Family leader Duanmu, you should know that Ji Tianqing was able to fight Qianshan Jinwu to a draw, and that's why he became the Tianqian region lord. It means that although he is only in Sky Origin Stage 3, his real combat ability is comparable to a Sky Origin Stage cultivator. Besides, he has the region lord's golden seal, which is a soul-level magic treasure. It can double his combat ability. Duanmu Huang narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, So you're saying that Ji Tianqing was able to break into the herb garden and kill the firebird because of the domain lord's golden seal? No. Venerable Lu Yun shook his head and said with a smile, Ji Tianqing doesn't only have the golden seal. He also has an ice attribute magic treasure, the Ice Dragon Hammer. The Ice Dragon Hammer is the most precious treasure of the demon clan. It is made from the horn of the Ice Dragon Rhinoceros. It can restrain the power of the firebird. Ji Tianqing had relied on the might of the ice dragon hammer to kill the ancient beast, the firebird of heavenly wind. I believe that the Duanmu clan's patriarch has already made his judgment on this point and should know that what I said is true. After the longevity garden was destroyed, half of it turned into scorched earth and ruins. There were still remnants of magma, which was caused by the heavenly wind fire bird's heaven and earth spirit fire. As for the other half of the battlefield, it turned into frozen ground. That was caused by the power of the ice dragon hammer. Duanmu Huang and the four elders had already carefully examined the ruins of the battlefield. They also concluded that Ji Tianqing had used an ice-type magical weapon. Therefore, when they heard Taoist Master Lu Yun's words, they immediately believed him. If family head Duanmu is still unwilling to believe me, then there's no harm in looking at this. After speaking, Taoist Lu Yun took out a fist-sized crystal ball from his spatial ring. Without a doubt, this was a photographic crystal. Taoist Master Flowing Cloud inserted a strand of quintessential essence into the crystal ball. The crystal immediately lit up with a silver light, forming a silver light screen. A scene appeared on the light screen. In the scene, there was a dusky sky. There was a fire bird that was as large as a mountain. It was currently fighting with a white-robed youth in the night sky. The fire bird continuously released flames that covered the sky and earth. The white-robed youth held a jade-white bone hammer in his hand, releasing an endless amount of icy white light. A man and a bird fought fiercely in the night sky. The aftermath of the battle poured down onto the ground, instantly collapsing the herb mountain and turning the entire mountain range into a vast expanse of white glaciers. Seeing this scene, Duanmu Huang and the four elders no longer had any doubts. They all revealed incomparably furious expressions. After a moment, the scene disappeared. Taoist Master Lu Yun then kept the photographic crystal with a smile. Duanmu Huang frowned and thought for a moment. He opened his mouth and asked him, Taoist Master Lu Yun, since the ice dragon hammer is the demon clan's treasure, how did it end up in Ji Tianqing's hands? The smile on Taoist Master Lu Yun's face became even more playful. Could it be that clan leader Duanmu has never thought that Ji Tianqing was originally a lowly commoner? What right did he have to enter the monarch mansion, become the Tianqian region lord, and even become a peerless genius whose name shook the world? If he didn't have a powerful backer and background, how would he dare to kill the Duanmu clan's eldest son, Duanmu Yulong, in front of everyone? Hearing his words, Duanmu Huang's expression instantly changed. His eyes surged with an eerie cold light. You mean? Ji Tianqing colluded with the demon clan and has the demon clan as his backer. That's why he was able to enter the monarch mansion in one step and dared to offend our Duanmu clan so unscrupulously. The four elders' expressions also changed, revealing a look of sudden realization. Taoist Master Lu Yun smiled and nodded. That's right. The fact that he was able to obtain the demon clan's treasure, the ice dragon hammer, is the most direct and most powerful proof. At this moment, second elder cupped his hands and reported, Patriarch, what Taoist Master Lu Yun said is true. Previously, the soul-herding hall also investigated and found that Ji Tianqing and the demon clan's Prince Kun Wu have close ties. Their relationship is not shallow. Duanmu Huang instantly had no more doubts. His knuckles cracked as he clenched his fists. His eyes also surged with soaring killing intent. Ji Tianqing. It's actually you, you bastard. You first killed my son, and now you've destroyed my Duanmu clan's herb garden. You and I cannot live under the same sky. So what if you have the demon clan as your backer? I'll catch you very soon and cut you into 1,000 pieces. I'll extract your soul and torture it for 1,000 years. Duanmu Huang roared a few words in a venomous tone. It took him a while to calm down. He looked coldly at Taoist Master Lu Yun and said in a deep voice, Taoist Master Lu Yun, the reason why you took the initiative to tell me this is because you're afraid of the demon clan behind him. You don't dare to assassinate him, so you want to borrow my Duanmu clan's power to get rid of him, right? Daoist Master Lu Yun nodded without hesitation and said in a playful tone, "That's right. Patriarch Duanmu is indeed wise. Although I really want to complete the mission and earn a high reward, I don't want to suffer the revenge of the demon clan's experts. That's why I told Patriarch Duanmu the truth. Ji Tianqing is our common target and enemy. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I believe that Patriarch Duanmu will definitely tear him into pieces, right?" Duanmu Huang stared at Daoist Master Lu Yun and nodded with a cold smile. "Very good. This is the result that both you and I wanted. You're very smart. The Duanmu clan owes you a favor. You can leave now." Since Daoist Master Lu Yun had achieved his goal, he bade farewell and left in satisfaction. Although it seemed like he was using the Duanmu clan, he was using them openly. However, in Duanmu Huang's eyes, this was not about who was using who. It was a win-win situation. Daoist Master Lu Yun did not need to make a move to make Ji Tianqing die without a burial ground. The Duanmu clan was worried that they would not be able to find the culprit. Now that the truth was out, they could immediately start their revenge. After Daoist Lu Yun left, Duanmu Huang didn't hesitate any longer and immediately ordered in a low voice. "Second elder, third elder, both of you make a move yourselves and immediately capture Ji Tianqing for me. Unless he's hiding in the imperial court or the monarch residence, as long as he shows his face in Zhongzhou, you don't have to worry about anyone and just take action. Whoever dares to stop my Duanmu clan from taking revenge will be my Duanmu clan's mortal enemy." Obviously, Duanmu Huang was completely enraged. He did not care about anything else for revenge. Chapter 689. Lu Yunjinren smiled as he left the longevity garden. Everything was going according to his plan, which was why he was in a good mood. When he walked out of the longevity garden, Xueli, the guard at the gate, immediately came up to him. Seeing his smiling face, Xueli hurriedly asked, "My lord, is it done?" "Humph. With this king personally taking action, of course everything will go smoothly." Daoist Master Lu Yun revealed a complacent sneer. Seeing that Xueli was about to ask again, he quickly said, "This is not the place to talk, let's leave first." With that, Reverend Lu Yun left the longevity garden with his guard, Xueli, and flew away as fast as lightning. 12 hours later, the two left the Mangu forest and landed on a towering mountain. The two stood in the forest at the top of the mountain. Seeing that no one was following them, they used their power to remove their disguises and showed their true faces. Swoosh! Xueli's body flashed with a black fog, and he immediately turned into a 3-meter-tall, burly demon clan man. Lu Yunjinren's body flashed with the demon fog and changed back to his original appearance. He was a middle-aged man with a thin body like a bamboo pole, wearing a blood-red robe. He had waist-long blood-red hair tied into 3 braids. His skin was pale and bloodless. His flat mouth revealed a few fangs, which were still dripping with blood. At first glance, he looked like a corpse that had just crawled out of a grave. If Ji Tianqing was here, he would be able to recognize that this demon clan man was the blood-winged demon king, Xue Qianjiang. Xue Qianjiang twisted his neck and stretched his limbs. He cursed angrily, "Living in the corpse of that human reptile really made me feel uncomfortable and disgusted." Fortunately, this king's plan succeeded. Everything was worth it. Xueli stood respectfully to the side and asked doubtfully, "Your Majesty, please tell me. What is your plan to create chaos in the world?" Xue Qianjiang smiled coldly and said slowly, "I lied and said that I was an assassin from the 10,000 Spirits Tower and showed the image recording crystal to Duanmu Huang so that he would know that the culprit was Ji Tianqing. Furthermore, this king will let them know that Ji Tianqing is using the most precious treasure of the demon clan, the Ice Dragon Hammer. Duanmu Huang is certain that Ji Tianqing's backer is the Yao clan. That's why he dared to kill his son and destroy his herb garden." Xueli frowned and asked doubtfully, "Demon King, even if the Duanmu Huang believes that the demon tribe is Ji Tianqing's backer, everything Ji Tianqing did was ordered by the demon tribe. But no matter how much the Duanmu Huang hated the demon clan, they couldn't possibly start a war with the demon clan. At most, he can only kill Ji Tianqing to vent his anger, right? Xue Qianjiang glanced at Xue Li and sneered, "What do you know?" That's right, no matter how strong the Duanmu clan is, they wouldn't dare to fall out with the demon clan, let alone cause chaos in the world. But what you don't know is that the Duanmu clan has a backer, someone from the human imperial court. If I'm not wrong, the Duanmu Huang can't deal with the demon clan and will definitely report the news to the imperial court. Xue Li was suddenly enlightened. He nodded in admiration and said, "Your Majesty, you're really powerful. This move is really brilliant. By doing this, you can provoke the hatred between the human imperial court and the demon imperial court, causing the human clan and the demon clan to fight each other. If the human clan and the demon clan are not united, there will be conflicts and disputes, and the world will be in chaos. The demon clan will have a chance to take advantage of this and achieve great things." Xue Qianjiang nodded and sneered, "That's right, this is my plan. I want to stir up the world and cause the human clan and the demon clan to fight each other. Although the hatred of the Duanmu clan is not enough to cause the human clan and the demon clan to break apart and start fighting each other, this is a line of fire. But this is a line of fire. By igniting this line of fire, this king can gradually deepen the hatred between the two sides, implicating more factions. When the conflict between the two sides deepens and more forces are involved, it will no longer be able to be resolved." Xue Li nodded repeatedly, his eyes full of expectation. Xue Qianjiang sneered and his eyes became more and more sinister. He continued, "During this period, we have to pay attention to the situation at all times and add fuel to the fire at the appropriate time to create more hatred. When the world is in chaos, the demon clan can take advantage of the situation and develop and grow stronger. This is a great contribution, even greater than our contribution of capturing Ji Tianqing." Xue Li's face was full of expectation. He bowed and said, "Your Majesty's wisdom really amazes me. When the human clan and the demon clan break apart and fight each other, you will be the greatest hero of our clan." Xue Qianjiang nodded with satisfaction and left the mountain peak with Xue Li, flying away as fast as lightning. Unknowingly, a whole day passed. In the middle of the night, Ji Tianqing returned to the monarch mansion and returned to the Tianqing palace. After 2 days of hard work and continuous fighting, he was in an extremely sorry state. His white robe was stained with dust, and he looked travel-worn. His injuries were still very serious and he only had 30% of his true core strength left. He was already an arrow at the end of its flight. His breath and face were very weak. Not only were his cheeks and lips pale, but even his eyes were dim. But in his opinion, it was all worth it. He had successfully destroyed the 100-flower garden, the spiritual grass garden and the longevity garden, destroying 80% of the Duanmu clan's medicinal reserves. The Duanmu clan suffered a great loss and suffered the worst blow in hundreds of years. He believed that the Duanmu clan's industries and businesses in the central region would soon be destroyed. The Duanmu clan's power would also plummet and they would not be able to deal with the Yun clan for 10 years. Even though Ji Tianqing was exhausted, he was still very excited at the thought of this. After returning to his residence, he could not wait to enter the secret chamber and consume the elixir and began to heal his injuries. Little Black Dragon and Qian Yu had also consumed a lot of energy and were quietly cultivating to recover their strength. Unknowingly, a day and night passed. When night fell on the second day, Ji Tianqing's true core strength had recovered by 80% and his injuries were mostly healed. He was prepared to continue cultivating and recuperate for a few days. But at this moment, a guard captain rushed to the door of the secret chamber and respectfully reported the news. Reporting to Domain Lord, His Majesty the Son of Heaven has arrived at the Tianqing Palace and said that he has something to discuss with you and is waiting for you in the main hall. Hearing the guard captain's report, Ji Tianqing hurriedly ended his cultivation and opened his eyes. He frowned and a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. Why would Long Yunxiao come to find me? Could it be that he already knew that the Duanmu clan's herb garden was destroyed and came to find me because of this? Chapter 690. When Ji Tianqing rushed to the guest hall, he saw a young man in a golden robe standing in the hall. The young man in the golden robe was tall and straight. He had a handsome face and a noble temperament. He was the son of heaven, Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao's back was facing the door as he stared at the painting on the wall. He was staring at the mountain-river diagram in the painting, deep in thought. Ji Tianqing walked into the main hall and stood behind Long Yunxiao, greeting him. May I know why the Son of Heaven is here tonight? Long Yunxiao came back to his senses and turned to look at Ji Tianqing, sizing him up calmly. Seeing that he was safe and sound, Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows and said in a playful tone, You caused such a big commotion, but you're actually unharmed. How incredible! Ji Tianqing vaguely guessed something, but he didn't show it on his face. He pretended to be puzzled and asked, Son of Heaven, what do you mean? Long Yunxiao glanced around and saw that there was no one else in the hall except for him and Ji Tianqing. He then said with a serious expression, All right, I won't keep you in suspense. Don't play dumb. Let me ask you, the Duanmu family's 3 herb gardens were destroyed and they suffered heavy losses. Was it your doing? Ji Tianqing neither admitted nor denied it. He looked at him calmly and asked, Son of Heaven came to find me in the middle of the night just to ask about this? Long Yunxiao saw that his attitude was a little vigilant. He frowned and said in a deep voice, I'm not here to seek justice for the Duanmu family. In recent years, the Duanmu family has been acting arrogantly and wantonly dealing with the Yun family. Their ambitions are clear as day. You actually dared to do such an earth-shattering feat at this time and cause the Duanmu family to suffer a heavy blow. I can't believe it. I don't have any opinions about your actions. I even admire you. However, the Duanmu family's vitality has been greatly damaged and the balance between the 3 great families has been broken. This is something that the imperial court doesn't want to see. Ji Tianqing understood what he meant. He nodded and said calmly, I don't know what the imperial court thinks. I only do what I think is right. Only do what you think is right. Hearing this, Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. He took a deep look at Ji Tianqing and thought to himself, this guy's style of doing things is to do things his own way, without any taboos, completely ignoring the views and opinions of others. This point coincides with this monarch's thoughts. For some reason, the more Long Yunxiao understood Ji Tianqing, the more he liked him. Long Yunxiao knew that it was useless to say more, so he said to Ji Tianqing, now that such a big thing has happened, the Duanmu clan will definitely go crazy for revenge and kill you at all costs. In the following period of time, you have to be careful. If you have any trouble that you can't solve, don't hesitate to look for me. I will definitely lend you a helping hand. After saying that, Long Yunxiao cupped his hands and took his leave. Ji Tianqing nodded, cupped his hands and said, Many thanks. Then he sent Long Yunxiao out of the hall. After sending Long Yunxiao away, he returned to the secret room and continued to cultivate. No matter what happened, he always placed cultivation as his #1 priority. The Duanmu clan's herb garden was destroyed, and the situation in the central state would definitely change greatly. There would definitely be more grudges and vendettas in the future. Therefore, Ji Tianqing urgently needed to increase his strength, so that he could withstand the storm in the future and settle down. Time passed quietly, and 3 days passed in a flash. In these 3 days, the central state could be said to be in turmoil. There was a sensational and incomparably shocking news that was crazily spreading in the central state. In the depths of the Mangu forest, the 3 herb gardens that the Duanmu clan had built with all their strength were all destroyed overnight. It was said that a mysterious expert attacked during the night and turned the 3 herb gardens into scorched earth and ruins. Not even a blade of grass grew. Even the ancient mystical beast that guarded the herb gardens of the Duanmu clan was blasted into pieces. Anyone who had heard of the Duanmu clan knew that the Duanmu clan was an ancient elixir family that controlled half of the herb business in the central state. The main reason why the Duanmu clan could prosper for thousands of years without declining was because of the mango forest and the 4 herb gardens. The 4 herb gardens could provide an endless supply of herbs, allowing the Duanmu clan to control the lifeline of the central state's elixir market. Now, the 3 herb gardens were destroyed, and the temporary storage of herbs was also destroyed. This was definitely a fatal blow to the Duanmu clan. Anyone with a bit of common sense knew that the Duanmu clan had lost the support of sufficient herbs. The clan's property and business would be greatly affected, and their power would definitely plummet. When this news spread, it immediately spread to every city and village in the central state. Even the common people were discussing it. While everyone was shocked and in disbelief, they were also very puzzled. Who exactly was that mysterious expert who destroyed the 3 herb gardens with one hand? How powerful was he to be able to enter the 3 herb gardens so easily, kill countless experts and guards, and even kill the ancient mystical beast? How powerful was his backer that he dared to declare war on the Duanmu clan? Was it the other 2 great families, or some top force? He used such a ruthless method to take the lives of the Duanmu clan in one move. Was he not afraid of the Duanmu clan's crazy revenge? In an instant, the common people discussed endlessly, and made all kinds of wild guesses. In the streets and alleys, all kinds of rumors and slanders were circulating. Everyone had different opinions, and no one could come to a conclusion. The common people did not know the truth. Even if they made wild guesses and discussed, they could not come to a conclusion. However, the various great clans and sects of the central continent had a more thorough understanding of the situation than the common people. The experts of the various forces all believed that the mysterious expert's strength was extraordinary, and that he had the support of a powerful family or the imperial court. Otherwise, he would not dare to be so arrogant. Everyone understood that the Duanmu clan had met a strong enemy this time. Not only was the other party powerful, he had no scruples and his methods were very ruthless. After the Duanmu clan suffered heavy losses, the other party would definitely make a follow-up move. He would take the opportunity to hit them when they were down and completely destroy the Duanmu clan. When the experts of the various forces analyzed this point, some people were worried for the Duanmu clan, but more people were gloating over their misfortune. Those powerful families and sects that had grudges with the Duanmu clan were wild with joy and were ready to make a move. The mysterious expert did what they wanted to do but did not dare to do. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them. They seized the opportunity to add fuel to the fire and take revenge on the Duanmu clan. Therefore, many powerful families and sects were mobilizing their forces and manpower to secretly take revenge on the Duanmu clan. On the central state, it looked peaceful on the surface, but in fact, there were turbulent undercurrents. Countless forces heard the news and were dragged into it. Chapter 691. The people of Middle State discussed incessantly, and rumors spread all over the place. Various factions took action secretly, launching attacks on the Duanmu family's industries and businesses to take revenge. Undercurrents surged in Middle State, and the Duanmu family instantly fell into an abyss of suffering. They were in chaos and in a sorry state. The Duanmu family was in chaos internally, and everyone was fearful and uneasy. Many rumors spread, and there were even people who secretly fled. All the elders and deacons were overwrought with work, and they were physically and mentally exhausted. However, the 3 destroyed herb gardens had to be restored, and countless industries and businesses had to be maintained. They also had to think of a way to solve the shortage of medicinal herbs. Yet, these problems were all very thorny and could not be solved in a few days or months. In addition, the various factions in Middle State took revenge, causing the Duanmu family to be attacked from all sides. Their situation became more and more dangerous, and it was difficult to move forward. Very soon, the Duanmu family, this enormous mountain, started to fall apart and disintegrate. Originally, the Duanmu family had spirit medicine pavilions and many shops in the hundreds of cities in Middle State. In a short 3 days, the spirit medicine pavilions and shops in the various cities all closed down, and they could no longer operate and trade normally. Those factions that cooperated with the Duanmu family to operate the pill business were also seriously affected and could not maintain it. Many small factions that relied on the Duanmu family collapsed and disintegrated. Those factions that could still struggle at death's door had no choice but to give up on cooperating with the Duanmu family and turn to find new backers to seek a way to survive. The Duanmu family, this big tree, fell, and they actually fell into the state of monkeys scattering when the tree fell. From an ancient family that countless factions fawned over, they became a rundown family that could not even protect themselves. Seeing the Duanmu family's encounter and situation, not only were the various wealthy factions deeply moved, the ordinary people also understood that the Duanmu family was finished this time. The Duanmu family that fell from the clouds to the abyss would have no chance to make a comeback. There were too many wealthy factions eyeing the Duanmu family and would absolutely not give the Duanmu family time to recover. Those factions would take the opportunity to ruthlessly trample on the Duanmu family, causing the Duanmu family to fall into a hopeless situation of eternal damnation. Deep into the night was dark. In the Duanmu residence 100 miles north of Greenwood City, it was supposed to be in a deep sleep and silent. However, the Duanmu family was still in chaos and anxiety these few days. Even in the middle of the night, the residence was still brightly lit, and there were flickering figures moving back and forth. In the depths of the courtyard, there were even sounds of discussion from the female servants and the cries of children, causing the atmosphere to be rather sorrowful. In the patriarch's study, Duanmu Huang was sitting on a large chair in front of the table, resting with his eyes closed. His aura was a little weak, and his face was very ugly. His eyes were bloodshot, and his whole body was emitting a strong evil aura. It had been an entire 4 days, and he had almost not slept a wink. In order to stabilize the Duanmu clan situation and the people's hearts, he was already exhausted. At this moment, closing his eyes for a moment was already a rare moment of relaxation. But even with his eyes closed, his mind was still thinking about the family business, and he couldn't rest at all. At this moment, a guard commander quickly walked into the study. He held a secret letter in both hands, bowed, and reporting to Patriarch, "Someone just sent this secret letter and asked this subordinate to deliver it to you personally." Duanmu Huang opened his eyes. He stretched out his hand and beckoned, and the secret letter was taken into his hand. He opened the letter and glanced at it. Suddenly, his spirit was shaken. The tiredness and weariness in his eyes were swept away. A bright light flashed in his eyes. "Leave." Duanmu Huang ordered the guard commander to leave the study. After he lowered his head and finished reading the secret letter, a glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. He murmured in a low voice, "The great Lord summoned me for a meeting at this time. He must have heard about the herb garden. I was just worried about not having a strong helper. The great Lord's secret letter came at the right time. Maybe our Duanmu clan will be saved." Thinking of this, Duanmu Huang quickly put away the secret letter, got up, and walked out of the study. He gave a few words of advice to the 2 elders, then left the Duanmu residence alone. He turned into a stream of light and flew into the night sky, flying towards the north. After all, he was a powerful cultivator in the soul refining realm. His flying speed was unbelievably fast. It was not something an ordinary cultivator in the sky origin realm could compare to. A few hours later, the long night had passed, and dawn was about to arrive. At this time, Duanmu Huang had already left the mango forest. He stopped on top of a mountain 100 miles away from Zhongzhou city. In the mountain range, there was a towering mountain that was thousands of feet high. On top of the mountain, there was an exquisite and luxurious manor. There were several magnificent palaces and rows of houses and buildings. Swoosh! Duanmu Huang descended from the sky and landed outside the manor's gate. At the gate, in addition to a dozen ordinary guards, there was a middle-aged man dressed as a butler waiting quietly. Seeing Duanmu Huang coming, the middle-aged butler quickly cupped his hands and bowed, leading him into the manor's gate. The two of them passed through a spacious courtyard, crossed a few corridors, and entered a palace. The middle-aged butler led Duanmu Huang into the depths of the palace and stopped in front of a secret room. "Family head Duanmu, the great lord is waiting for you," the middle-aged butler said in a serious tone and extended his hand to make a "please" gesture. Duanmu Huang nodded. Without saying anything, he pushed open the stone door of the secret room and walked in. As soon as he entered the secret room, he saw two figures standing in the dark room. One of them was tall and wore a long golden robe, a purple cloak, and a crystal mask on his face. This person exuded a noble and confident aura. He stood with his back to the door of the secret room. He was staring at the array on the wall, thinking about something silently. Without a doubt, this person was the Great Lord. The second person in the secret room was a handsome man wearing a blue robe. He had a slim figure and looked more beautiful than a woman. This person held a string of prayer beads in his left hand and a green jade fan in his right. He was dressed like a gentleman. Duanmu Huang was not unfamiliar with him. He knew that he was the eldest son of the Murong family, Murong Lingfeng. When Murong Lingfeng saw that Duanmu Huang had arrived, he hurriedly bowed and said with a slight smile, "Lingfeng greets uncle." Duanmu Huang hurriedly collected his thoughts and nodded at him in greeting. Then, Duanmu Huang cupped his hands and bowed to the Great Lord. Duanmu Huang greets the Great Lord. With Duanmu Huang's strength and status, he only needed to be polite to the Great Lord. Of course, he would not be respectful to the Great Lord like his son, Duanmu Yulong. After all, he represented the Duanmu family and had a cooperative relationship with the Great Lord. The Great Lord nodded and said in an androgynous voice, "Family head Duanmu, thank you for coming here personally." Duanmu Huang cupped his hands and said in a deep voice, "Now is a critical time. Since the Great Lord has something important to discuss, this old man must come personally." The Great Lord only nodded slightly and did not say anything. Chapter 692. After the three of them exchanged pleasantries, the secret room quietened down. Duanmu Huang and Murong Lingfeng knew that the Honorable Lord had summoned them in the middle of the night because he had something important to discuss. The two of them stared at the Honorable Lord's back and waited silently. At this moment, the Honorable Lord spoke, "I have been cultivating in seclusion for several months and only came out a few days ago. I never thought that so many things would happen in these few months. Duanmu Yulong was killed, Ji Tianqing became the Heavenly Stellar Region Lord and destroyed 3 herb gardens, causing the Duanmu family to suffer a great loss. He, a lowly commoner kid from the mountains of the south, is actually able to stir up the winds and clouds of the central continent and create such a huge mess." The Honorable Lord's tone was low and stern. His cold laughter contained a monstrous killing intent. Hearing him mention what had happened in these few months, Duanmu Huang secretly gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with hatred and killing intent. "Honorable Lord, we have underestimated that little bastard Ji Tianqing too much. If we had used all our strength to deal with him, he would have been crushed into pieces and turned into ashes. It's a pity that he hid too deeply and rose too quickly, catching everyone off guard. After these few months of fighting, I have finally figured out his background." Hearing this, the Honorable Lord furrowed his brows and said in a low voice, "Ji Tianqing's background? Could it be that he has another identity? Let's hear it." Duanmu Huang's face was solemn as he said, "Ji Tianqing rose so quickly. He first entered the monarch manor and then became the Heavenly Stellar Region Lord. He even dared to start a war with my Duanmu family because he has a powerful backer. He hid it very well in the past, but this time when he destroyed the longevity garden, he exposed his background. His backer is the demon imperial court. Hearing this, the Honorable Lord and Murong Lingfeng were stunned and revealed a look of disbelief. Before the Honorable Lord spoke, Murong Lingfeng asked doubtfully, "Uncle Duanmu, how could Ji Tianqing have the demon imperial court as his backer?" Duanmu Huang narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "He used the ice dragon hammer when he destroyed the longevity garden and killed the firebird. The ice dragon hammer was the most precious treasure of the demon clan, and it just so happened to be able to restrain the firebird of heavenly wind. Furthermore, Ji Tianqing has a close relationship with the demon prince Kunwu." There was no need for him to say anything more. The High Lord and Murong Lingfeng understood the connection. The High Lord's eyes turned as cold as ice as he muttered, "So that's how it is. I didn't expect him to be related to the demon imperial court. I really underestimated him." Murong Lingfeng hesitated for a moment before saying with a frown, "Lord, I've been secretly observing Ji Tianqing for the past few months. I realized that he and the Son of Heaven, Long Yunxiao, didn't have a grudge against each other like the rumors said. Instead, they interacted frequently and seemed to have a close relationship. Not only that, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao also had a close relationship. The two of them were originally martial sister and brother. I'm afraid that Ji Tianqing also has some connections with the Yun family." Hearing this, the High Lord and Duanmu Huang both frowned with a complicated look in their eyes. The High Lord sneered and said in a deep voice, Ji Tianqing, this brat, is really inconceivable. On one hand, he's on good terms with the demon prince, on the other hand, he's on good terms with Long Yunxiao. He even has some connections with the Yun family. He's really benefiting from both sides. No wonder a lowly commoner like him could rise so quickly. It turns out that he has 3 big backers to help him. However, it's useless no matter how much he tries to rope in backers. Since I know his background, I won't underestimate him anymore. His death is coming soon." The High Lord continued with a disdainful tone, "Long Yunxiao is also a useless piece of trash. Everyone knows that he's infatuated with Yunyao, but he chose Suwen to be his heavenly consort and let Ji Tianqing snatch Yunyao away. As a man, he can't even conquer his own sweetheart and has close ties with his love rival. He's really shameless. He's a disgrace to the imperial court." Murong Lingfeng frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he said, "High Lord, I've observed for a few months and found that the relationship between Ji Tianqing, Yunyao, and Long Yunxiao seems to be a little complicated. I'm thinking, did we all misjudge Long Yunxiao? Did he give up on Yunyao because he deliberately gave Yunyao to Ji Tianqing in exchange for Ji Tianqing's loyalty? After all, no matter how important a peerless beauty is to Long Yunxiao, how can it be compared to the country and the throne?" Duanmu Huang thought for a moment and hurriedly nodded in agreement. "That's right. Nephew Lingfeng's analysis is very reasonable. Although Long Yunxiao pretends to be gentle and kind, as the emperor, he's definitely someone who will do anything to achieve his goals. Using a peerless beauty in exchange for the loyalty and support of a peerless genius. Isn't this what many emperors have done?" The High Lord slowly turned around and glanced at Murong Lingfeng and Duanmu Huang. He sneered mockingly, You're overestimating Long Yunxiao. If he really had such ruthless determination and courage, he would have strengthened his forces long ago. With his wings fully developed, he would have been able to compete with me directly. There's no need to investigate the entanglement between him, Ji Tianqing, and Yunyao. They're going to die soon anyway. This time, my cultivation has improved a lot. I've reached the half-step soul refinement realm and am not far from breaking through. Once I break through to the soul refinement realm, there will be no place for Long Yunxiao in the imperial court." Duanmu Huang and Murong Lingfeng looked at each other and revealed a look of joy. They hurriedly cupped their hands and congratulated the High Lord. Congratulations to the High Lord for achieving great success. Congratulations to the High Lord for improving your cultivation. You'll become a transcendent soon. The High Lord nodded slightly and raised his hands, indicating that the two of them could dispense with the formalities. He stared at Duanmu Huang and said in a serious tone, "Family head Duanmu, Ji Tianqing destroyed the 3 herb gardens of the Duanmu family. The imperial court already knows about this. Although the imperial court hasn't said anything, Ji Tianqing's arrogance and unscrupulousness will definitely make the imperial court unhappy. You don't have to worry about Ji Tianqing's status as the imperial court's master and the imperial court's opinion. Find a suitable opportunity and kill Ji Tianqing with your own hands. Anyway, the matter has already blown up. You have enough reason to take revenge. Even if the imperial court is unhappy, they won't punish you too harshly." When Duanmu Huang heard his words, it was as if he had eaten a pill of reassurance. He hurriedly nodded and said, "Good. Don't worry, High Lord. With me personally taking action, that bastard Ji Tianqing will definitely die." The High Lord then looked at Murong Lingfeng and said in a dignified tone, "Lingfeng, the Duanmu family has suffered a great loss. Many people will definitely take this opportunity to take revenge. The Murong family and the Duanmu family are allies. At this time, we can't just stand by and watch. We must do our best to help." After listening to the High Lord's orders, Murong Lingfeng respectfully cupped his hands and said, "We will follow the High Lord's orders." "Don't worry, High Lord. The Murong family knows what to do." The High Lord nodded with satisfaction. His eyes revealed a cold light and he sneered, "Since Long Yunxiao and Ji Tianqing are secretly colluding, then I'll kill Ji Tianqing first and then get rid of Long Yunxiao." Chapter 693. 5 days passed by quickly. Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret chamber for 5 days. His injuries and skills had completely recovered. Early in the morning, he ended his cultivation and walked out of the secret chamber. The guard guarding outside the secret chamber saw him come out and immediately reported respectfully, "Master, Miss Yunyao came 2 days ago. She seemed to have something important to tell you. Miss Yunyao said that after you came out of seclusion, she asked me to inform her immediately." Ji Tianqing immediately guessed the purpose of Yunyao's visit. It was most likely because of the destruction of the Duanmu family's herb garden. He waved his hand at the guard and said calmly, "No need to inform her. I'll go and find her myself." Then, he left Tianqing Palace and rushed to Yunyao Palace as fast as lightning. An hour later, Ji Tianqing arrived at the gate of Yunyao Palace. The guard at the gate recognized him and quickly opened the gate to welcome him into Yunyao Palace. Ji Tianqing was led by the guard to Yunyao's study. He sat down and drank tea while waiting. Not long after, Yunyao heard the news and rushed over. As soon as she entered the study, she stared at Ji Tianqing and sized him up. "Tianqing, are you okay? Are you hurt?" Yunyao came in front of him and asked with concern. Ji Tianqing reached out and held her hands. He shook his head with a smile and said, "Yao Yao, don't worry. I'm fine now." Yunyao glared at him and said with some displeasure, "I was worried when you went to the mango forest alone. After you finished your task, you didn't even tell me and went into seclusion to cultivate. I was worried for a few days." Ji Tianqing quickly apologized with a smile and explained, "The Firebird Heavenly Wind was more difficult to deal with than I expected. Although I succeeded in destroying 3 herb gardens, I was also injured." Yunyao didn't really blame him. She was just worried that something bad had happened to him. The two of them hugged each other intimately for a while before sitting down to talk business. Ji Tianqing looked at Yunyao and asked, "Yao Yao, the Duanmu family's 3 herb gardens have been destroyed. They must have suffered a great loss. How is the situation outside?" The corners of Yunyao's mouth curled up into a sneer as she quickly said, "The Duanmu family is now in a precarious situation, both internally and externally, and has become a broken ship. 80% of the Duanmu clan's pill workshops and shops had been shut down. Only a few dozen businesses were left, and they were still struggling at death's door. Many forces that were on good terms with the Duanmu family all parted ways with the Duanmu family, each seeking their own way out. Those powers that had enmity with the Duanmu clan were beating them while they were down, and they used all sorts of methods to deal with the Duanmu clan and seize and divide up the Duanmu clan's businesses. The Duanmu family has suffered a heavy blow this time, and they won't be able to recover for at least 10 years, much less threaten the Yun family. Hearing her mention the Yun family, Ji Tianqing quickly asked, "Oh right, what was the Yun family's reaction after the Duanmu family got into trouble?" Yun Yao said with a gratified expression, "The Yun family and the Duanmu family have been fighting for many years, and they have always been at a disadvantage. Their situation is getting more and more difficult. Now that the Duanmu family is in trouble, the Yun family's pressure is greatly reduced, and they can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Moreover, the Yun family also secretly added fuel to the fire and added fuel to the fire. They hit the Duanmu family while they were down, causing the Duanmu family's losses to increase rapidly. Oh right, my father was very shocked when he heard the news, and he was full of praises for you." Ji Tianqing smiled and said in a playful tone, "What did uncle say? And how did he praise his future son-in-law?" Yun Yao's heartbeat quickened slightly, and she was a little embarrassed, but she said without changing her expression, "My father said that he was right about you. You are indeed the #1 prodigy of the human race. My father said that you are brave and resourceful, and that you can do what others can't. You did what he always wanted to do but couldn't, and you helped him vent his anger. Moreover, you were able to successfully destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden, which means that you and my father's cooperation plan is half completed. This is a great contribution. My father praised you greatly, but he also asked me to tell you that you have to be more careful in the future to prevent the Duanmu family's crazy revenge." "Okay, I know what to do." Ji Tianqing nodded. Yun Yao continued, "Oh right, my mother was very satisfied with your performance after she found out about this. She even praised you." "Oh. There's such a thing." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows, and a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Mother-in-law is finally willing to take a proper look at this hairy son-in-law of mine. Yun Yao didn't say anything, and she looked at him from the corner of her eyes with a strange expression. Ji Tianqing didn't dare to look her in the eyes, and could only smile embarrassedly. Cough cough. "Yao Yao, let's talk about business." Yun Yao then retracted her sharp gaze, and said seriously, "Tianqing, my mother asked me to tell you something." "What is it?" Ji Tianqing looked at her in confusion. Yun Yao said calmly, "My mother said that if you are free next month, you can go to Cloud Soul Palace and stay for a few days." Ji Tianqing frowned slightly, and was even more confused. Why would she suddenly invite me to Cloud Soul Palace for no reason? Yun Yao explained, "I told you before that my grandfather is the famous miracle Dr. Bailey in the Central State. My mother's medical skills were passed down from my grandfather. Ever since my mother married into Cloud Soul Palace, my grandfather mysteriously disappeared, and there has been no trace of him for over 20 years, and there has been no news of him. 10 days ago, Cloud Soul Palace received news that my grandfather was about to return from the great swamp of the southern wilderness, and was about to return to the Central State. At the end of next month, it will be my grandfather's 300th birthday, and Cloud Soul Palace will be holding a birthday banquet for my grandfather, inviting all the famous forces in the Central State. My mother hopes that you can go and meet my grandfather when the time comes." Ji Tianqing finally understood Bailey Ningsu's meaning. He nodded and said seriously, Since it's your grandfather's 300th birthday, then I should go. However, all the famous forces in the Central State will be there. If I go, isn't the Yun family afraid of people suspecting that it was the Yun family that ordered me to destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden?" Yun Yao shook her head and said, "Don't worry about this. You are the heavenly stellar region lord, and one of the most respected people in the human race, so you should have received an invitation from Cloud Soul Palace. As long as the Imperial Court and the Duanmu family don't have evidence that the Yun family is involved, they can't do anything to the Yun family. After pausing, she added, also, the Duanmu family's herb business has collapsed, and a large portion of the market will be empty. My father wants to use this birthday banquet as an opportunity to pull in all the famous forces, and steal the herb business in the central state continent, and suppress the Duanmu family's power. When Ji Tianqing heard this, he smiled and nodded, that's right. Uncle's move can be said to be taking drastic measures, it's both ruthless and accurate. Your grandfather is the world-famous miracle Dr. Bailey, and with his name and the Yun family's power, he will definitely be able to rally everyone. Chapter 694. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao chatted for a long time before leaving. He didn't return to Tianqing Palace. He remembered the ice dragon hammer and rushed to Kuan-Wu Palace. An hour later, he landed outside the gate of Kuan-Wu Palace. The gatekeeper stopped him and asked about his identity and purpose. Then, he turned and entered Kuan-Wu Palace to report the news. After a while, the gatekeeper returned and led Ji Tianqing into Kuan-Wu Palace. He entered the guest hall and sat down to drink half a cup of tea before Kuan-Wu heard the news and rushed over. As soon as Kuan-Wu stepped into the hall, he looked at him with a complicated expression and said with a bitter smile, Ji Tianqing, you are really AI. Halfway through his words, Kuan-Wu stopped and could only sigh helplessly. When Ji Tianqing saw his reaction, he naturally understood why he sighed. However, he pretended not to understand and asked in confusion, Your Highness Kuan-Wu, what's wrong? What happened? Kuan-Wu saw that he was pretending to be confused and immediately said with anger and amusement, Ji Tianqing, if I knew your purpose of borrowing the ice dragon hammer, I definitely wouldn't have lent it to you. You are simply too daring. I really can't believe that you actually took the ice dragon hammer and barged into the Mangu forest alone. You destroyed the 3 medicine gardens of the Duanmu family and even killed the heavenly wind fire bird. Now, the few great families and the imperial court all know that you did this with the ice dragon hammer. Our monster race is really a scapegoat for no reason. When he said the word scapegoat, Kuan-Wu's face was full of depression. He looked at Ji Tianqing with a complicated expression. Ji Tianqing revealed an expression of sudden realization. He quickly cupped his hands and said to Kuan-Wu, Aya, Your Highness Kuan-Wu, I'm really sorry. I was careless. How about this, I will go to Central Continent City and spread the news to all the major forces that this matter has nothing to do with the monster race Imperial Court. It was done by me, Ji Tianqing. Kuan-Wu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly waved his hand and said, Stop it. Do you really want to drag me and the Imperial Court down with you? It's fine if you don't explain, it will only make things worse. Our monster race Imperial Court has never interfered in the affairs of the human race Imperial Court, let alone the grievances of the 3 great families. Now, the human Imperial Emperor had even sent a letter to the Demon Emperor 2 days ago to ask about the Ice Dragon Hammer. If it wasn't for the sake of my sister, I would definitely settle the score with you. Ji Tianqing saw that he was quite distressed, so he stopped joking and said seriously, Your Highness Kuan-Wu, I have my own difficulties in this matter, so I can't tell you the reason in advance. For you and His Majesty the Demon Emperor to lend me a helping hand and lend me the Ice Dragon Hammer, I am extremely grateful and will remember it in my heart. You don't have to blame this on Cuckoo. I, Ji Tianqing, owe your Imperial Court a favor. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely repay you double. 2. He took out the Ice Dragon Hammer from his spatial ring and handed it to Kuan-Wu. Kuan-Wu was just a scapegoat for no reason and was slightly depressed. He didn't really blame Ji Tianqing. Kuan-Wu was slightly apologetic when he saw Ji Tianqing speak so solemnly. However, he had a typical demon's character. He was unruly and straightforward, so he couldn't say such sentimental words. He didn't say anything and took the ice dragon hammer and put it away solemnly. Ji Tianqing asked again, "Your Highness Kuan Wu, how's Ku's situation?" Kuan Wu's eyes became gentle when Ji Ku was mentioned, and he said with a smile, "Ku has been cultivating bitterly in the imperial court. With imperial father helping her refine the demon energy in her soul, her situation has become more and more stable. She's no longer troubled by that mysterious energy. Moreover, Ku's strength has advanced by leaps and bounds under the care of imperial father and imperial mother. She has already reached the 4th level of the origin core stage." So fast. Ji Tianqing was rather surprised and felt it was unbelievable. Kuan Wu revealed a gratified smile and nodded. "It's indeed fast. Imperial father and imperial mother both said that Ku's natural talent actually far surpasses mine. Imperial father said that once the mysterious energy in Ku's soul is refined, she'll immediately reach the heaven origin stage. According to imperial father's estimation, it'll probably be completed within 3 to 5 months and completely solve Ku's predicament and hidden dangers." Ji Tianqing was even more shocked and asked in disbelief, "Ku will be able to reach the heaven origin stage within 3 to 5 months? That's too shocking." Kuan Wu didn't feel the slightest bit envious or jealous that Ji Ku possessed such good fortune. He only felt gratified and proud in his heart. He glanced at Ji Tianqing and said with a playful smile, "Both of us have to cultivate diligently and increase our strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, Ku will be able to catch up to us within a year and even surpass us." Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded, "That's right." After that, the two of them chatted for a while more before Ji Tianqing bid farewell and left. After returning to Tianqing Palace, he entered the secret chamber to cultivate in seclusion. Anyway, he had nothing to do recently and it was not suitable for him to show his face in public. The Duanmu clan was severely damaged and the Central Plains was in turmoil. He was the culprit. Once he left the monarch mansion, he would definitely be besieged and hunted down by many powerhouses. Since that was the case, why should he go and cause more trouble? Staying in the monarch mansion to cultivate was the wisest choice. After entering the secret chamber, Ji Tianqing activated the Heavenly Soul Heavy Array. He used 25 times the gravity to refine his body and cultivate the ultimate sword body. He was now at Sky Origin Stage LV4. As long as he reached Sky Origin Stage LV6, he would be able to cultivate the ultimate sword body. With the ultimate sword body, he was not far from forming the sword heart. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with anticipation. He just wanted to increase his strength as soon as possible. Time flew by like a shuttle. For the next half a month, Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in the secret chamber. He used the power of the Heavenly Soul Heavy Array to refine his sword body. He had to endure the inhuman torture and pain. He had to consume a large amount of spiritual stones and Dan beads every day. Luckily, he had accumulated enough cultivation resources. He would not run out in a short period of time. Half a month had passed without him noticing. After 15 days and nights of torture and cultivation, Ji Tianqing's body in true energy had been doubled. He had finally reached Sky Origin Stage LV5. After being tortured by the Heavenly Soul Heavy Array for half a month, he had reached the limit of his endurance. He had to stop cultivating and rest for a while. This morning, he finished his cultivation and walked out of the secret chamber. The guards at the door of the secret room were shocked and they saw him covered in blood. They thought that he was seriously injured. However, the guard clearly sensed that although Ji Tianqing was in a mess, his strength and qi were much stronger. Apparently, he had made a breakthrough in his cultivation. Ji Tianqing left the secret chamber. He went back to his room to take a bath and change into clean clothes. After getting rid of the blood on his body, he became spirited and dignified again. He rested in his room for half a day. At noon, he heard a familiar voice outside the door. Chapter 695. Hearing the tender voice outside the door, Ji Tianqing revealed a smile. Yan, come in. As soon as he finished speaking, the door opened with a creak. Yan, walked into the room and came in front of Ji Tianqing. He smiled and cupped his hands, "Senior brother Tianqing." Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. He looked him up and down a few times. Seeing that he was wearing a white robe, his complexion was rosy and his breathing was very stable, he asked. Yan, how are your injuries and cultivation recovering? Yan nodded and said, "Senior brother Tianqing, I have been in seclusion for 20 days to heal my injuries. My injuries and cultivation have completely recovered. Senior brother Tianqing, have you borrowed the ice dragon hammer from the demon clan?" Ji Tianqing was startled for a moment before he remembered that for the past half a month, Yan had been in seclusion in Tianqing Palace to heal his injuries and did not know what had happened outside. Thus, he told Yan about the process of borrowing the ice dragon hammer and the matter of him destroying the medicine garden. Yan listened carefully. When he learned that Ji Ku was the princess of the demon clan, he was surprised and shocked. At the same time, he was happy for Ji Ku. When he learned that Ji Tianqing had acted alone and successfully destroyed the 3 medicine gardens of the Duanmu family, he was excited and excited. Yan was excited for a long time before his emotions calmed down. He hurriedly warned Ji Tianqing to be careful of the Duanmu family's revenge. The two chatted for a while before Yan took his leave. For the next few days, the emperor's mansion was as calm as ever. No matter what happened in the outside world, no matter how much turmoil the Duanmu family and the other major forces caused, it did not affect Tianqing Palace in the slightest. For a full 4 days, Ji Tianqing had been circulating his energy to adjust his breathing and stabilize his martial arts realm. On the morning of the 5th day, Ji Tianqing was meditating in his room when a guard captain came to report the news. Reporting to Domain Lord, there is news from the Qingfeng courtyard that a middle-aged man who calls himself Prince Zhongli wants to see young Master Yan. Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and revealed a puzzled expression. Who is Prince Zhongli? Why does he want to see Yan? The guard captain quickly explained, according to the news from Qingfeng courtyard, Prince Zhongli is from the fire race. Oh, I see. Ji Tianqing was enlightened as he thought to himself, Prince Zhongli of the fire tribe must be a trusted aide of the fire emperor, right? I didn't expect that as soon as Yan sent the news back to the fire clan would send people to the Central Plains in just a month. Thinking of this, he waved his hand and signaled for the guard captain to leave. Then, he personally went to find Yan and told him about this matter. When Yan heard the news, he immediately showed an excited and joyful expression. Senior martial brother Tianqing, Prince Zhongli is my imperial father's younger brother and also my 3rd imperial uncle. Among the princes of the fire race, 3rd uncle is the strongest, and he loves me the most. I didn't expect that imperial father would send 3rd uncle. Yan was happy for a while and did not forget to explain to Ji Tianqing, senior martial brother Tianqing, when I wrote a letter to imperial father before, I asked him to send people to Qingfeng courtyard in Fish Dragon Alley to find us. There's no other way, they can't enter the imperial mansion when they come to the Central Plains, so I can only let them go to Qingfeng courtyard. Ji Tianqing understood the identity of Prince Zhongli, so he no longer delayed. He quickly left the Tianqing Palace with Yan and rushed to the exit of the imperial mansion. An hour later, the two left the imperial mansion and rushed to Qingfeng courtyard in Fish Dragon Alley. After the two entered Qingfeng courtyard, they went straight to the guest hall. He saw that there were 4 people talking in the main hall. The old man in a white robe sitting on the main seat was the Beast King, and the white ape stood respectfully beside him. On the chair on the left side of the hall, there was a middle-aged man in a fiery red robe and a fire jade crown on his head. This person was tall and sturdy, with a dignified appearance. He spoke with an extraordinary temperament and had a noble temperament. He was Prince Zhongli of the Fire Clan. Behind Prince Zhongli stood two middle-aged men with strong bodies like iron towers and a valiant and domineering aura. Although these two people were wearing ordinary green robes, their bodies were filled with an iron-blooded murderous aura. They were obviously war generals who had been on the battlefield for a long time. Prince Zhongli and the Beast King sat in the hall, drinking tea and waiting. Occasionally, they would chat a little. When Ji Tianqing and Yan walked into the hall, the Beast King and Prince Zhongli immediately turned their heads to look. The Beast King raised his eyebrows and revealed a kind smile. He greeted them, "Tianqing, Yan, you're finally here." Prince Zhongli hurriedly stood up, his face was kind as he looked at Yan with concern. "Yan, I haven't seen you for many years. You've finally grown taller." Yan hurriedly went up and bowed to Prince Zhongli. "Yan greets the third imperial uncle." After saying that, he pointed to Ji Tianqing beside him and introduced him to Prince Zhongli. "Third imperial uncle, this is the senior brother Tianqing I mentioned in the letter, the region lord of Tianshan region." Prince Zhongli revealed a kind smile to Ji Tianqing and bowed, "Greetings to the region lord." Ji Tianqing also smiled and bowed back. Then, he greeted the Beast King. Everyone exchanged greetings with each other for a while. Then, the Beast King tactfully took his leave and left the hall. "Yan, Prince Zhongli, you have something to discuss. This old man will not disturb you." After the Beast King left with White Ape, only Prince Zhongli and two followers, Yan, and Ji Tianqing were left in the hall. Everyone took their seats. Prince Zhongli and Yan began to talk about business. Ji Tianqing sat aside and listened silently. He learned a lot of information from the conversation between the two. Prince Zhongli was the mainstay of the Fire Tribe. He was the most trusted person of the Fire Emperor. He had the strength of the fourth level of the Sky Origin stage. The two followers behind him were actually the elite fire generals of the Fire Tribe. They were both fierce generals with great achievements. They had the strength of the second level of the Sky Origin stage. When Yan's letter was sent back to the Fire Tribe, the Fire Emperor ordered Prince Zhongli to take people to Zhongzhou to investigate the matter of Yan being captured. Prince Zhongli was worried about Yan's safety, so he rushed day and night to Zhongzhou city as soon as possible. When talking about this matter, Yan asked Prince Zhongli with doubts, "Third imperial uncle, who is that old lunatic who lost an arm and a leg? Did he betray our Fire Tribe, so he was tortured by cutting his flesh and blood?" Prince Zhongli nodded with a solemn face and said in a heavy tone, "Yan, the old lunatic who captured you is called Hui Yan. 30 years ago, he was the high priest of our Fire Tribe. He had a high status. However, he committed an unforgivable crime, so he was severely punished by the Fire Emperor." Hearing this, Yan showed a surprised expression and said in disbelief, "Hui Yan? He was the high priest of our Fire Tribe?" Ji Tianqing also showed a look of interest and asked Prince Zhongli, "Prince Zhongli, can you tell us what happened back then?" Chapter 696. Prince Zhongli's voice was low and heavy. There was a tinge of anger in his tone. As he spoke, Ji Tianqing and Yan finally understood what had happened 30 years ago. Back then, Hui Yan was the high priest of the Fire Tribe. He had a noble status and a high position. He had been a priest for 20 years. In the first 10 years, he had been fair and honest. He was highly valued by the Fire Emperor. However, he was bewitched by a woman from the Changli tribe and married her. He became more and more arrogant and selfish. The Changli woman had planned for many years. During the autumn fire banquet 35 years ago, she took the opportunity to sneak into the fire god palace. She killed many guards and stole the fire god crystal. After that, the Fire Emperor chased after her for a few hundred miles and brought her back with the fire god crystal. Yan widened his eyes in shock and asked curiously, "Third uncle, isn't the Changli tribe our sworn enemy? Could it be that the hatred between us and the Changli tribe started from that time? Prince Zhongli shook his head and explained, Yan, you're too young. You don't know what happened back then. In fact, before that, the Fire tribe and the Changli tribe had been fighting for more than 100 years. The Changli woman was actually the 7th princess of the Changli tribe. She was ordered to get close to the high priest Hui Yan to steal the fire god crystal. Yan nodded and said angrily, the fire god crystal is the sacred item of the Fire tribe. It's also the treasure that maintains the safety of millions of people. The 7th princess of the Changli tribe stole our fire god crystal. How despicable. Prince Zhongli nodded his head slightly and continued, the Fire Emperor captured the 7th princess of the Changli race and brought her back to the city. He executed her in front of everyone according to the laws of our race. However, the Fire Emperor was righteous and merciful. He showed mercy to the high priest Hui Yan and did not pursue his crime. However, Hui Yan was obsessed and held a grudge against the Fire Emperor. He believed that the Fire Emperor had killed his wife. In the 5 years after that, Hui Yan used all kinds of despicable methods to steal our resources and treasures. Later, he actually wanted to steal the fire god crystal and the 9-flame spiritual vein to avenge his dead wife. Hearing this, Yan Er's heart jumped. She worriedly asked, Third uncle, what happened after that? What happened this time? Prince Zhongli patted his head and said with a complicated expression, after the 7th princess stole the fire god crystal, the Fire Emperor strengthened the defenses of the fire god palace to protect the fire god crystal. High priest Hui Yan failed to steal the fire god crystal, but he killed many guards and maids, and even injured 2 fire generals. Later on, when he realized that his plan had failed and his whereabouts had been exposed, he decided to snatch the 9-flame spiritual vein at all costs. In order to obtain the 9-flame spiritual vein, he had already prepared for many years, and his plan was very thorough. By the time I arrived at the 9 Flames mountain range with the fire generals and guards, Hui Yan had already succeeded and caused a tragedy. The 9 Flames spirit vein was taken away, and the 9 Flames mountain range collapsed on the spot. The mountains and rivers within 100 miles were all shattered, and 9 villages were destroyed. Over 10,000 civilians were affected. In that battle, more than 4,000 fire race people died, and more than 5,000 were injured. Although the Fire Emperor personally took action in the end and captured High Priest Hui Yan, our people suffered heavy casualties, and blood flowed like a river. Yan clenched her fists and cursed angrily, "Damn Hui Yan, he is so despicable and cruel. He deserves to die." Prince Zhongli nodded and continued, the Fire Emperor captured Hui Yan and brought him back to the city, where he was publicly judged for his crimes. The civilians and the relatives of the imperial family hated Hui Yan to the core, and they all asked the Fire Emperor to cut his flesh to pay back his blood. They wanted Hui Yan to use his flesh and blood to atone for his sins to the ancestors, and to repay the kindness of the fire race. The Fire Emperor ordered to cut his flesh to pay back his blood. However, Hui Yan had already cultivated a secret technique and turned the 9 Flame spiritual vein into a 9 Flame spiritual snake, which merged with his body. After the torture, Hui Yan lost his left arm and right leg, but he still had half of his blood left. Luckily, he didn't die. The Fire Emperor followed the rules set by the ancestors and expelled Hui Yan from the fire race, never to step into the fire race again. Since then, Hui Yan disappeared and hasn't appeared for 30 years. I didn't expect him to be hiding in Central State City. After listening to Prince Zhongli's explanation, Ji Tianqing and Yan finally understood the whole story. Yan said in a low voice, "Hui Yan, that hateful bastard, killed so many people, he really deserves to die." Ji Tianqing also said with a dignified expression, "No wonder Hui Yan claimed that he had a grudge against Yan and tried to capture him." Prince Zhongli nodded and said, "Hui Yan hated our fire race to the core, but he could never step into the fire race, nor did he have the strength to return to the fire race for revenge. Therefore, he turned his target to Yan wanting to murder Yan for revenge. But I don't understand, Yan was born 20 years after that incident, how did Hui Yan know Yan's identity? Ji Tianqing's eyes flashed with a cold light and said in a cold voice, the person who captured Yan was an assassin from the Duanmu family's Soul Shepherd Hall. Hui Yan colluded with the Duanmu family. Duanmu family? Prince Zhongli frowned, his eyes becoming more and more dignified. That bastard Hui Yan, he actually found the Duanmu family as his backer. I'm afraid this is going to be troublesome. Yan hurriedly advised, third uncle, the Duanmu family is very powerful and has as many experts as the clouds, they are not something we can deal with. Moreover, senior brother Tianqing destroyed the Duanmu family's herb garden half a month ago, causing the Duanmu family's vitality to be greatly damaged. Now that the situation in Central State is chaotic, the Duanmu family is in a desperate situation and is crazily fighting back, wanting to find senior brother Tianqing for revenge. Oh. There is such a thing. Prince Zhongli revealed a shocked expression and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Master, this is the first time this prince has come to Central State City, so I don't know the situation in the city. Can Master explain to this prince? Ji Tianqing naturally would not refuse, and gave Prince Zhongli a rough introduction of the situation in Central State City. After 15 minutes, when he finished, Prince Zhongli frowned and pondered for a moment, then made up his mind. Hui Yan's strength has dropped to the 5th level of Sky Origin stage, and he is an old lunatic with broken limbs, so he is not of much use to the Duanmu family. This prince dares to conclude that even if Hui Yan is in cahoots with the Duanmu family, he is not a core member, so the power he can use is limited. Now that the Duanmu family is in a desperate situation and can't even protect themselves, it is the best time for us to capture Hui Yan. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and agreed, that's right, the Duanmu family is busy dealing with the other forces, their main target is me. Prince Zhongli and the 2 fire generals have just come to Central State City, so the Duanmu family will not target you, so it is convenient for you to act. However, if you want to find Hui Yan in this big Central State City, it is like looking for a needle in a haystack, I'm afraid you won't be able to find him in a short period of time. Speaking of this problem, Prince Zhongli revealed a confident smile and waved his hand, Master, don't worry, this time this prince came to Central State, I brought a fire tribe treasure. Chapter 697. The treasure that Prince Zhongli mentioned was one of the secret treasures of the Fire Clan, the Fire Spirit Pagoda. This was a top heaven origin stage magic tool that could help him detect the aura of the 9-flame spirit vein. Everyone discussed for a while and decided on their future plan. Ji Tianqing and Yan returned to the Emperor Mansion to wait for news. Prince Zhongli and the 2 fire generals were responsible for searching for Hui Yan's traces. During this period, both sides used Qingfeng Courtyard as their contact point and foothold. After making the plan, Ji Tianqing found the Beast King and explained the situation. Naturally, the Beast King agreed without hesitation and had no objections. Ji Tianqing left with Yan Prince Zhongli and the 2 fire generals rested in Qingfeng Courtyard for a day and then began to move. Although they had just arrived in Central Continent City and were not familiar with the situation in the city. But this was also one of the benefits of making it easier for them to move. No one knew Prince Zhongli and no forces noticed them. They moved quietly in Central Continent City and used the Fire Spirit Pagoda to search for the aura of the 9-flame spirit vein. 3 days passed quickly. Early in the morning, Ji Tianqing was still meditating in his room when he heard Yan calling from outside the door. Senior brother Tianqing, there's news. Third uncle has found Hui Yan. Ji Tianqing quickly stopped cultivating and got up and walked out of the room. Yan was standing outside the door. Her small face was filled with joy and excitement. Let's go to Qingfeng Courtyard. Ji Tianqing did not waste time. He quickly left the Emperor Mansion with Yan and rushed to Qingfeng Courtyard in Fish Dragon Alley. 2 hours later, when the two of them arrived at Qingfeng courtyard, the Beast King was already waiting for them in the hall. Time was tight. After the two sides met, the Beast King immediately said to Ji Tianqing and Tianqing, Prince Zhongli found Hui Yan early this morning. Hui Yan was hiding in a deserted house in the city. Prince Zhongli did not immediately take action. He first sent a message to this old man and asked me to inform you. However, Hui Yan was very cunning. He seemed to have sensed that something was wrong and wanted to escape. Left with no choice, Prince Zhongli could only bring 2 fire generals to chase after him. Hui Yan is fleeing towards the west side of the city, he might be fleeing out of Central Continent City. You should hurry and chase after him, you might be able to catch up. Ji Tianqing and didn't waste any time. They immediately left the Cool Breeze courtyard and rushed to the West City Gate as fast as they could. Of course, before the journey, Ji Tianqing used a secret technique to change his appearance. As he hurried along, he looked down at the city from the sky and observed the situation in the city. He used his spiritual sense to detect the aura of Prince Zhongli and the others. Half an hour later, the two of them arrived at the West Gate, but they did not see Prince Zhongli, Hui Yan, and the others. I wonder if they have left the city. Ji Tianqing murmured doubtfully as he looked around. Suddenly discovered something and quickly walked to the wall in the corner of the city gate. In that inconspicuous dark corner, there was a dark red mark half the size of a palm. The imprint looked simple and crude. It was neither a word nor an image. But when saw the imprint clearly, she revealed a gratified smile. Senior brother Tianqing, this is the imprint that third imperial uncle left for us. They have left the city and are rushing towards the west. Ji Tianqing nodded and hurriedly took across the west gate and flew towards the mountains in the western suburbs. Along the way, the two of them could find the imprint left behind by Prince Zhongli in the mountains every few dozen miles. In addition, there were many traces of fighting along the way. Ji Tianqing followed the instructions of the imprint and kept flying towards the west. They gradually left the western suburbs of Central Continent City and entered the vast mountains. Unknowingly, 3 hours passed. It was noon and the sun was scorching high in the sky. At this time, Ji Tianqing and were flying in a vast and deep mountain range. This place was thousands of miles away from Central Continent City. It was a primeval forest where few people would go. Suddenly, Ji Tianqing saw a dark red flame rising in the sky hundreds of miles ahead. He could faintly hear a muffled rumbling sound. He immediately concluded that there must be Sky Origin stage powerhouses fighting in that area. It should be there. Let's go. Ji Tianqing's eyes lit up. He hurriedly sped up with When the two of them crossed hundreds of miles of mountains and arrived at the sky above a deep valley, they saw 5 figures fighting fiercely in the sky. There were 3 people on one side. It was Prince Zhongli and 2 fire generals. They were besieging 2 Sky Origin stage powerhouses. One of them was an old cripple in a black robe who was missing an arm or a leg. The other was a middle-aged man who was as big as a bear and looked honest. There was no doubt that the old cripple in the black robe was Hui Yan. The middle-aged man with the honest face was from the Wild Mountain tribe, who were known for their loyalty and strength. He seemed to be Hui Yan's guard. The man from the Wild Mountain tribe was at Sky Origin stage level 3. He was fighting against the 2 fire generals alone and was not at a disadvantage at all. The 2 fire generals were fierce generals who had been on the battlefield for a long time. Their aura was strong and murderous. Even though they were covered in blood and wounds, they still held their sabers in their hands and fought without caring about anything else. The man from the Wild Mountain tribe was also covered in wounds and blood. He was also aggressive. He was holding a long black spear that was 6 feet long and as thick as a wooden pillar. He was using his excellent spear art to block the attacks of the 2 fire generals. The 3 of them were fighting above the valley. Their true essences were splashing in all directions and making loud rumbling sounds. Not far away, Prince Zhongli was fighting against Huiyan in the sky above the mountains. Prince Zhongli was only at Sky Origin Stage Level 4. However, with a pair of spiritual fire-heavy swords, he was able to perform the godly fire sword art. The sky was filled with flames. Huiyan was holding a red saber in his hand. Around him was a 9-flame spiritual snake that was shining in 9 colors. He was fighting against Prince Zhongli. He was stronger than Prince Zhongli. With the protection of the spiritual snake, he was able to suppress Prince Zhongli and beat him back. The 5 Sky Origin Stage cultivators were fighting in the sky. The sky was filled with true essences and was in chaos. The violent energy exploded, creating a raging hurricane in the sky. The mountains below were also hit by the shockwaves of the battle. A few mountains collapsed and cracks appeared on the mountains. Ji Tianqing could see that if he did not come to help, Prince Zhongli and the 2 fire generals would not be able to catch Huiyan. Otherwise, Huiyan and the guard from the Wild Mountain tribe would not have been able to escape Zhongzhou city and run for thousands of miles. After seeing the situation, Ji Tianqing did not hesitate anymore. He turned into a stream of light and rushed toward Huiyan. Chapter 698. Swoosh! With a flash of golden light, Ji Tianqing instantly pierced through the sky and rushed to Huiyan's side. Soaring dragon from the 9 heavens. He pulled out the black dragon sword and slashed out a 30-meter-long ice-blue divine dragon toward Huiyan. Huiyan was fighting with Prince Zhongli and was caught off guard by the sudden attack. When he sensed the icy divine dragon coming, his face changed and his eyes were filled with anxiety and anger. Bam! With a muffled sound, Huiyan could not dodge in time and was hit by the icy divine dragon, flying backward. However, he had the 9-flame spiritual snake to protect him and blocked most of the power of the icy divine dragon. The frost divine dragon shattered with a bang, turning into millions of ice crystal fragments that rained down from the sky like hailstones. The 9-flame spiritual snake also circled around and roared angrily. The flames on its body flickered. Huiyan retreated 1,000 meters away and stood high in the sky. He spat out a mouthful of blood and panted heavily. He looked at Ji Tianqing gloomily. When he saw Ji Tianqing's appearance, he was stunned. Although Ji Tianqing had changed his appearance, he still felt a sense of déjà vu. Moreover, Ji Tianqing's aura and sword moves were still fresh in his memory. Huiyan frowned and thought for a moment. He immediately guessed Ji Tianqing's identity. "It's you. The little bastard who sneaked into Dark City to assassinate me and destroy the Dark Shadow Palace." Ji Tianqing's identity was exposed and he did not hide anymore. He used his power to restore his appearance. Prince Zhongli stopped and looked at Ji Tianqing with relief. He cupped his hands and said, "Territorial Master, you came at the right time." Ji Tianqing nodded at him as a greeting. Huiyan finally confirmed Ji Tianqing's identity. He stared at him with hatred and roared with murderous intent, "Ji! God! Great! It's really you, you bastard!" Ji Tianqing was not angry at all. He looked at Huiyan with a sneer and said coldly, "Huiyan, I let you escape last time in the underground city. Let's see how you can escape today. No matter how capable you are, you won't be able to escape today. Surrender." Last time in the underground city, he was not strong enough and let Huiyan escape. Today, he was at the 5th level of the Sky Origin stage. And here is a vast mountain range, the terrain is not as complicated as the underground Ancheng. No matter what, it was impossible for Huiyan to escape. Huiyan narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Ji Tianqing, this is between me and the fire race. What right do you have to interfere?" Ji Tianqing was momentarily stunned when he heard these words. Soon after, he sneered and said, "Ha ha ha, Huiyan, what's the point of saying all this now? What? You know you have nowhere to run, so you want to negotiate with me? No need. Yen is my junior brother. Since you dare to go against him, you have to bear my anger. Huiyan's thoughts were exposed and he was furious. He shouted at the top of his lungs, Ji Tianqing. You will die a horrible death. The one who will die a horrible death is you. Ji Tianqing retorted and did not talk nonsense with him anymore. He immediately waved his sword and slashed out a giant sword that was hundreds of meters long. Water split. The giant golden sword was extremely powerful. It carried the power to destroy everything and slashed at Huiyan. Huiyan's face immediately changed. He held the crimson sword in his right hand and fought back with all his strength. He slashed out 6 flaming sword lights. Furious blade. The 6 saber lights that were tens of meters long collided with the huge sword that was hundreds of meters long. Immediately, there was an earth-shattering boom. The dark sky was immediately illuminated by the flaming sword lights. It was like the red clouds at sunset. The power of the giant golden sword was unparalleled. It shattered the 6 flaming saber lights on the spot, turning them into thousands of dark red fragments that scattered in all directions. The giant golden sword's power was not reduced at all. It continued to slash at Huiyan. Huiyan looked fearful. He immediately released his true core strength and poured it into the 9-flame spiritual snake to block the sword lights. Spiritual snake protection. As he shouted, the 9-flame spiritual snake's body suddenly doubled in size. It burst out with more dazzling 9-colored flames. The 100-meter-long 9-flame spiritual serpent circled around Huiyan, protecting him tightly. Boom! In the next moment, the giant golden sword hit the 9-flame spiritual snake and sent Huiyan flying again. The 9-flame spiritual snake's power had weakened a lot. Huiyan's aura was also getting weaker and his combat strength was decreasing. He flew back 1,000 meters before he could steady himself. His face became even more ghastly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Prince Zhongli also attacked without hesitation. He waved his 2 swords and slashed out towering flames. Ji Tianqing forced Huiyan to retreat in one move, and did not give him a chance to catch his breath. He immediately chased after him, brandishing his sword and using the 5 extremes of heavenly movement. Metal slash. He activated his powerful true core strength and instantly drew out the metal elemental spiritual chi in a 10-mile radius. He condensed it into a giant golden sword and slashed at Huiyan. On the surface, this slash of the Golden Emperor was not much different from water flow severance. However, the metal slash was formed by the purest metal elemental spiritual chi. It was extremely sharp and powerful. Furthermore, the metal slash was an upper-level cultivation skill of the Heaven Origin stage. It was more than twice as powerful as the water split. Just as Huiyan was blocking Prince Zhongli's attack, the gigantic golden sword that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth came crashing down. Boom! At this critical moment, Huiyan's face changed drastically. His eyes were filled with terror. However, no matter how hard he tried to retreat, he still could not dodge the attack. Kaboom! The dazzling giant golden sword instantly engulfed his body and hit the 9-flame spiritual snake. Huiyan had activated the 9-flame spiritual snake's power to the maximum and its defensive power had reached its limit. However, under the invincible metal emperor slash, the 9-flame spiritual snake was slashed open on the spot, and the 9-colored spiritual fire that covered the sky and earth burst out. Hiss! 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 The 9-flame spiritual snake was like a living creature. It hissed in pain and its body twisted violently. Although it was not cut in half, there were cracks all over its body. Large amounts of flames kept leaking out and its power was quickly draining away. Huiyan was killed by the giant sword and fell from the sky. He crashed into the valley below. With a loud bang, the valley filled with towering trees was smashed into a 1,000-meter-wide crater on the spot. There were many gullies around the deep hole. Mud and powder were flying up into the sky. The loud noise reverberated throughout the valley. The entire valley and the surrounding mountain peaks shook violently from the impact. Huiyan was lying at the bottom of the 1,000-meter deep hole. He was buried by a pile of mud. His entire body was drenched in blood, his spirit was dispirited, and his eyes were dim and lifeless. The slash had almost cut the nine-flame spiritual snake into pieces. It had also severely injured him. His internal organs were all shattered. Chapter 699. Ji Tianqing and Prince Zhongli stopped fighting for the time being. The two of them stood above the canyon, looking down at the deep pit and Huiyan at the bottom of the pit. When Prince Zhongli saw that Huiyan was covered in blood and his aura was extremely weak, he was shocked. He turned to look at Ji Tianqing and felt that it was unbelievable. Before this, he and Huiyan had exchanged a few hundred moves, but he couldn't do anything to Huiyan. They could only fight until both of them were injured. However, Ji Tianqing came and heavily injured Huiyan with just 2 moves. His strength was extremely weak. This was unbelievable. Just now, that sword strike that could split heaven and earth apart, its power was truly terrifying beyond compare, causing Prince Zhongli to be rather shocked. He couldn't believe that Ji Tianqing and Huiyan were both at Sky Origin Stage 5. How could there be such a huge gap between them? Thinking of this, Prince Zhongli was full of admiration. He said to Ji Tianqing, "No wonder the zone leader could become the #1 peerless genius of the human race. I will remember that sword move for the rest of my life." Ji Tianqing only smiled and nodded at Prince Zhongli's praise. He didn't say anything. Prince Zhongli only saw him injuring Huiyan with 1 move, but he didn't know that Huiyan didn't use his full strength or his trump card. If he used the Burning Sky Palm and Sword of Judgment, he would be able to kill Huiyan in 1 move. However, Huiyan was an abandoned person of the Fire tribe. He couldn't be killed yet. He had to be handed over to Prince Zhongli. Therefore, Ji Tianqing used the Black Dragon Sword and used the Golden Emperor Slash. At the same time, the 2 fire generals were still fighting with the man from the Wild Mountain tribe. The man from the Wild Mountain tribe was shocked and he saw Huiyan being slashed into the ground. Anger and anxiety filled his eyes. "Ah! You bastard, I'll kill you." The man from the Wild Mountain tribe was loyal to Huiyan. Seeing that Huiyan was heavily injured, he was naturally enraged. He waved his spear recklessly and charged towards Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing turned his head and glanced at him. His tone was cold as he shouted, "You're courting death." As he spoke, he raised the Black Dragon Sword and slashed at the man from the Barbarian Yu clan. Scarlet Dragon Flash. A 50-meter-long flaming sword instantly pierced through the sky and arrived in front of the man from the Wild Yu tribe. The man suddenly turned pale with fright. He hurriedly brandished his long spear, sweeping out a shocking spear shadow in an attempt to block the giant sword's attack. Ping ping ping. With a series of muffled sounds, the spear shadows that filled the sky were smashed into pieces by the giant sword. In the next moment, the huge flaming sword struck the man from the Barbarian Mountain clan. Boom! His true essence shield instantly collapsed, and his body was blasted to pieces, turning into minced meat that splashed out in all directions. The power of the fiery sword didn't diminish. It flew for another 10 miles and smashed into a 1,000-zhang tall mountain. With a loud rumble, the 10,000 feet tall mountain collapsed on the spot. Everything above the mountainside was completely shattered. Endless smoke and dust rose into the sky. The entire mountain shook violently for a long time before it gradually calmed down. The man from the Barbarian Mountain clan was killed by Ji Tianqing with a casual strike. Prince Zhongli and the 2 fire generals watched with trepidation. Their hearts were filled with astonishment. Especially the two fire generals. They fought with the man from the barbarian mountain clan for a long time, but they couldn't gain the upper hand. However, Ji Tianqing killed the man from the barbarian mountain clan with a casual strike. How terrifying was his strength! Prince Zhongli had a deeper understanding of Ji Tianqing's strength. He thought to himself, Yan actually has such a powerful senior brother who is so protective of him. It's really his blessing. When I return to the Fire Tribe, I must have a good talk with the Fire Emperor to let Yan follow his senior brother so that he can achieve greater things. At this moment, Ji Tianqing descended from the sky and flew into the valley. He landed in the deep pit that was 1,000 meters wide. He used his true essence to form a giant hand and grabbed at Huiyan. Huiyan had just climbed out of the ruins and was about to escape with the help of the nine-flame spiritual snake. Suddenly, he saw a giant golden hand grabbing at him. He was shocked and his eyes were filled with fear. At this critical moment, he desperately activated the remaining true essence in his body. He flapped his wings and flew into the sky in a futile attempt to escape. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing frowned and a cold light flashed in his eyes. You still want to escape? I've said that you won't be able to escape today. He brazenly used 100% of his strength to increase the size of the giant golden hand by a few times. Its speed also increased by 2 times. Swoosh! The giant golden hand streaked across the sky and caught Huiyan, who was desperately trying to escape, in the palm of its hand. The nine-flame spiritual snake was twisted and deformed by the giant golden hand. Huiyan's face was also pale. He was sweating profusely and was in extreme pain. In the blink of an eye, the giant golden hand grabbed Huiyan and flew back in front of Ji Tianqing. Huiyan was caught by the giant golden hand. Only his head was exposed as he struggled desperately. Ji Tianqing. You bastard, this old man and you are irreconcilable. If you dare to kill me, the Duanmu family will never let you off. Just wash your neck and wait for death. Ji Tianqing stared at him coldly and said expressionlessly, "Humph. You might be able to use the Duanmu family to threaten others. Using the Duanmu family to threaten me? Are you out of your mind?" As he said that, he flicked his left hand and shot out a dazzling golden sword light. It stabbed fiercely into Huiyan's dantian. With a muffled bang, Huiyan's dantian was crushed on the spot. Majestic true essence leaked out and quickly dissipated. Huiyan let out a shrill scream as his life's cultivation quickly dissipated. His entire person was like a rotten eggplant. Very quickly, he shriveled up and became an old lunatic who was on the verge of death. Clearly, Huiyan's life's cultivation was crippled. Even if he was still alive, he would not be able to stir up trouble again. Prince Zhongli and Yan hurried over with 2 fire generals. Seeing that Huiyan's cultivation was crippled, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Prince Zhongli cupped his hands and bowed. He said solemnly, "Master, thank you for your help. Our fire tribe will remember this favor. It's good that you have crippled Huiyan. You have solved our clan's greatest problem and it's also convenient for us to take him back for trial. The nine-flame spiritual snake is our fire tribe's spiritual vein, but it has merged with him. We will take him back to the fire tribe and let the fire emperor strip the nine-flame spiritual snake and restore it to the nine-flame spiritual vein." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said calmly, "No need to thank me. I am helping Yan. However, I want to interrogate Huiyan first. What is his relationship with the Duanmu family? After I am done with the interrogation, I will hand him over to you." Prince Zhongli naturally had no objections. He nodded and made a gesture of invitation. Chapter 700. Huiyan's cultivation had been completely depleted, and he was as weak as an ordinary person. He no longer had any strength to resist. His body had shrunk into a ball, and his expression was filled with despair. His eyes were filled with a deathly gray, and he no longer had anything to live for. Hearing Ji Tianqing's question, he laughed coldly in a hoarse voice. I'm no different from a dead man. Why would I tell you the inside story? Ji Tianqing had long expected that he would have such a reaction. He was neither angry nor anxious. He said slowly, that's right. Your current fate is no different from a dead man. But you should know that sometimes death is not scary. Living is more painful. Coincidentally, I've heard of some torture methods and was worried that I wouldn't be able to use them. Today, I'll use you to practice. As he spoke, he stretched out his right index finger and flicked a wisp of dark golden sword qi into Huiyan's body. That wisp of fierce and domineering sword qi immediately swam in Huiyan's meridians, bursting with violent and sharp sword qi. Huiyan's meridians were shattered inch by the sword qi and turned into powder. The pain of his meridians being shattered caused Huiyan's body to convulse. Blood foam kept flowing out of his 7 orifices, and he opened his mouth to let out an incomparably shrill scream. He clenched his teeth and held on for a while. Then, he could no longer bear the extreme pain and immediately begged for mercy. Stop. Stop it. Ji Tianqing. I'll tell you everything. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and withdrew that wisp of sword qi. He glanced at Huiyan and said in a contemptuous tone, I thought you were tough. You can't even bear this little bit of pain. How disappointing. Back then, when he cultivated the sword heart Dao, the sword qi also swam in his meridians. Recently, when he cultivated in the heavenly spirit heavy array, he also had to endure the same pain. But he endured it with amazing perseverance. That was why he was able to cultivate the sword heart Dao and improve his strength rapidly. And Huiyan was only destroyed by the sword qi for a moment before he was tortured to the point of collapse. He hurriedly begged for mercy. From this, it could be seen that Ji Tianqing could grow so quickly. It was natural for him to be called the #1 prodigy of the human race. After that, Huiyan no longer dared to hide anything and revealed his relationship with the Duanmu clan. Ji Tianqing, Yan and the others finished listening, only then did they come to a realization, understanding the whole story. It turned out that the second madam of Duanmu Huang was just a young lady from a small family, and by chance, she recognized Huiyan as her adoptive father. Huiyan wanted to settle down in the central state, and he wanted to use the Duanmu family's medical methods to recover his left arm and right leg. Therefore, Huiyan used all means and schemes to help second madam marry into the Duanmu family and become Duanmu Huang's concubine. The second madam was also an ambitious and scheming person. She had been in the Duanmu family for more than 20 years, and she had gone from being a concubine to a co-wife step by step. In the end, she had become the honorable second madam. Huiyan also benefited from this. Through his relationship with the second madam, he could use the Duanmu family's power. Originally, Huiyan had been tortured by the fire race. He had lost his left arm, right leg, and half of his blood. His power would rapidly weaken, and his left arm and right leg would not be able to recover. However, with the help of the Duanmu family, he had managed to survive until now, and his strength had stabilized at the 5th level of the Sky Origin stage. He even had a chance to recover his crippled body. A few months ago, Huiyan found out that the Fire Emperor had a son called Yan through the Duanmu family's soul-hurting hall, and he had come to Central State City. Therefore, he wanted to capture Yan and use him to threaten the Fire Emperor to take revenge on the entire fire race. When the second madam contacted him for help, he made this request to the second madam. It was because of this that Yan was captured, and Ji Tianqing broke into the underground city to rescue him. Now that the truth was out, Ji Tianqing did not say anything more, and threw Huiyan to Prince Zhongli. I have finished the interrogation. Huiyan will be handed over to you. Prince Zhongli asked 2 fire generals to hold Huiyan. He bowed to Ji Tianqing and said with a sincere expression, Domain Lord, thank you again for your help. Later, I will take Hui Yen back to the fire race. Before I came, the Fire Emperor had told me to let Yen return to the fire race for an important matter. Domain Lord, this matter should not be delayed, we will take our leave now. Yen also looked at Ji Tianqing with reluctance. He cupped his hands and said, Senior brother Tianqing, I will go back to the fire race with third uncle. You are alone in Central State, you must be careful. Don't worry, after my matter is settled, I will come back to find you as soon as possible. Ji Tianqing smiled, patted his head, and said, Yen, you have been away from the fire race for too long, it is time to go back and see your parents. We will part here, you all take care. Ji Tianqing waved goodbye to everyone, watching Prince Zhongli, Yen, and the others fly across the sky, flying south as fast as lightning. When everyone's figures disappeared into the sky, he withdrew his gaze, changed his appearance, and returned to Central State City. He rode on Qianyu, flying in the sky at a leisurely pace, muttering silently in his heart. Ku is cultivating in the monster race Imperial Court and will not be back for 3 to 5 months. Yen also went back to the fire race, at least 3 to 5 months. Only Qianyu and Little Black Dragon are left to accompany me, sigh. It seems that I have to go back to the Monarch Mansion and cultivate in seclusion for a while. Ji Tianqing made up his mind. After going back, he had nothing to do, so he continued to cultivate in seclusion, striving to cultivate the ultimate sword body as soon as possible. Unknowingly, he had flown 400 miles and crossed dozens of mountain ranges. He was still 600 miles away from Central State City, flying above a dark green primitive forest. Suddenly, in the empty sky in front of him, the air fluctuated violently. In the next moment, a thin and tall figure in a purple robe appeared out of thin air in the sky. Swish! It was a tall man in a purple robe with a cold and dignified aura, wearing a bronze devil mask on his face. Under the mask, a pair of eyes as deep as the starry sky was revealed, glowing with a cold light, staring at Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing suddenly saw the purple-robed man appear, immediately frowned, his pupils shrank, and his eyes became serious. He appeared out of thin air. What kind of method is this? Could it be that he teleported from afar? He whispered in his heart, very vigilant and wary of the purple-robed man. This was because he knew very well that although Sky Origin Realm experts could fly in the sky as fast as flowing light, it was impossible for them to teleport. It was said that only transcendent experts in the soul-refining realm could teleport 10 miles in an instant with the help of soul-level magic treasures. Ji Tianqing guessed that the purple-robed man who suddenly appeared was very likely to be a soul-refining realm expert. The other party came with ill intentions, his body was filled with coldness and a trace of killing intent. Swish! Ji Tianqing stopped, standing 1,000 meters away from the purple-robed man in the sky. The purple-robed man stared at him and spoke in a cold and deep voice. Ji Tianqing. This seat has been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 701. The purple-robed man's voice was deep and forceful. It contained an unquestionable domineering aura and an invisible soul-suppressing sound. Ji Tianqing was 1,000 meters away from him. Just by hearing his voice, he felt his entire body turn cold and a strong sense of fear appeared in his soul. His expression suddenly changed and his eyes revealed a strong sense of vigilance. Soul Refinement Realm Expert. He knew very well that only experts in the soul refinement realm were able to use invisible soul energy to kill their opponents. Sure enough, the purple-robed man secretly circulated his energy and a blazing white light immediately lit up behind him. It condensed into 5 balls of white light, like 5 giant eyeballs. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing's body shook and his expression became very ugly. Divine Soul white light condensing into 5 Dharma eyes. This is a 5th-level soul refinement realm expert. He had read some martial arts history books in the Emperor King manner before and had some understanding of soul refinement realm experts. He knew that when a martial artist broke through heaven origin and reached the soul refinement realm, besides controlling heaven and earth spirit energy, they could also use divine soul power. The most obvious sign of a soul refinement realm expert was the white light that appeared from their divine soul power. They could condense divine soul dharma eyes. A first-level soul refinement realm expert could only condense one divine soul dharma eye. A second-level soul refinement realm expert could condense two divine soul dharma eyes. A third-level soul refinement realm expert could condense three divine soul dharma eyes, and so on. The purple-robed man could actually condense 5 divine soul dharma eyes. He was clearly a 5th-level soul refinement realm expert. Damn it! How could a 5th-level soul refinement realm expert appear? And looking at his posture, it's obvious that he has been planning for a long time to assassinate me. Who is he? Ji Tianqing stared at the purple-robed man and silently guessed in his heart. At this moment, the purple-robed man sneered and said, Ji Tianqing, Ji Tianqing, if you had always holed up in the Emperor King Manor, I wouldn't have been able to do anything to you. But I already expected that you would leave the Emperor King Manor sooner or later. I didn't expect that not only did you leave the Emperor King Manor, you even left Central State City. You personally gave me such a good opportunity, so how could I let you down? Today, I'll tear you into 1,000 pieces, grind your bones to dust, and make you pay with your blood. Hearing his words, Ji Tianqing immediately frowned and thought, pay with blood? Could he be from the Duanmu family? As he thought of this, he vaguely had an answer in his heart. He looked coldly at the purple-robed man and asked in a deep voice, You are Duanmu Huang? The purple-robed man was wearing a mask, so no one could see the change in his expression. His eyes were as cold as ice. His entire body emitted a murderous aura as he sneered, so what if I am? So what if I'm not? Of the divine soul dharma heart. You. Of soul of bones of. Of the soul of. As soon as his voice fell, the purple-robed man decisively waved his right hand. With a wave of his sleeve, an overwhelming 5-colored spiritual light shot out. Shwa! The 5-colored light that blotted out the sky condensed into a giant 5-colored blade that was 1,000 meters long and slashed down toward Ji Tianqing's head. Moreover, the 5 divine soul dharma eyes behind the purple-robed man also released an invisible divine soul power that sealed off an area of 20 miles. A 5-colored curtain of light appeared, enveloping the entire area within 20 miles, forming an isolated domain. Within this domain, the purple-robed man was the absolute ruler. He controlled the power of heaven and earth. Ji Tianqing was suppressed by an invisible force, as if he had fallen into a quagmire, unable to move at all. He could only watch as the enormous 5-colored blade slashed down at him with the power to destroy everything in its path. At the moment of life and death, he closed his golden wings without hesitation to protect himself. In the next moment, the heaven-splitting blade slashed down and struck the golden wings. Boom! With a deafening explosion, Ji Tianqing's figure was engulfed by the 5-colored spirit light. The heaven-splitting blade wrapped around him and fell straight down from the sky, slashing into the mountain range below. With a loud rumble, the towering mountain range, which was hundreds of miles long, was instantly shattered into pieces by the heaven-splitting blade. The mountain range collapsed, and several peaks collapsed. The ground within a radius of dozens of miles shook and jumped, stirring up smoke and dust. When the smoke and dust dissipated, heaven and earth regained its clarity. The lush towering mountain range had been turned into a wasteland. In the wasteland, there was a wide gully that was like an abyss. At the bottom of the abyss, among the rubble and ruins, there was a faint golden light that flickered dimly. After a while, the golden light struggled a few times and shook off the surrounding soil and rocks. Then, a figure slowly climbed out of the ruins and stood on the mound of soil with stumbling steps. It was Ji Tianqing. He looked very haggard. His body was covered in soil and there were a few streaks of red blood. His face was pale, and blood kept flowing out of his nose and mouth. The golden wings drooped weakly behind him, and the light was very dim. Obviously, the golden wings had helped him block the heaven-splitting blade, but they had used up all their strength and could no longer protect him. Although he was lucky not to die, his internal organs had been damaged and he had suffered serious internal injuries. His true essence was quickly flowing away. Is this the strength of a soul refinement realm cultivator? Even if I use the Kenshin battle robe, I will not be able to block his attack. The difference of a realm is indeed huge. I have no right or chance to fight back. Ji Tianqing looked up at the purple-robed man in the sky. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. The purple-robed man stood high in the sky and looked down at the abyss below. He saw the haggard and heavily injured Ji Tianqing. He frowned, and a look of astonishment flashed across his eyes. This little bastard took a hit from my sword and was not killed. The purple-robed man was shocked. He couldn't believe his eyes. He was a powerful cultivator at the 5th level of the soul refinement realm, while Ji Tianqing was only at the 5th level of the sky origin stage. He was clearly a realm higher than Ji Tianqing, and he could kill Ji Tianqing with a casual slap. However, Ji Tianqing was still alive, and his body was unharmed. He didn't lose any limbs. How could he not be surprised? Soon, the purple-robed man came back to his senses. He stared at Ji Tianqing in the abyss and shouted angrily, "Little bastard, even if you have a treasure to protect you, you can block my sword. But this time, I will turn you into ashes and you will die without a burial place." As he spoke, the purple-robed man stretched out his wide left hand and slammed it towards Ji Tianqing in the abyss. Falling star palm. Suddenly, a huge silver palm with a radius of 100 meters appeared. It carried the power to destroy the heaven and earth as it slammed towards Ji Tianqing. The huge silver palm was like a falling meteor. It pierced through the sky and slashed towards Ji Tianqing's head. Chapter 702. The difference in strength between Ji Tianqing and the purple-robed man was too great. When the fallen star palm fell from the sky, he did not hesitate to use his strongest defensive trump card. Swoosh! A golden light flashed in his palm, and a golden seal appeared. It was the seal of mountains and rivers. He desperately activated his true core energy and poured it into the seal of mountains and rivers. The golden seal suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light and a sacred and majestic aura. In an instant, the seal of mountains and rivers grew to the size of a house. It was 5 meters tall and 6 meters wide. Under Ji Tianqing's control, the mountain and river pattern on the side of the golden seal opened, and he immediately went in. Almost at the same time, the fallen star palm hit the seal of mountains and rivers hard. Boom! In the deafening sound, the seal of mountains and rivers was hit by a destructive force. It shone with a dazzling golden light and crashed into the ground. This was the ruins at the bottom of the abyss. The ground was broken and filled with debris. The violent force exploded, and a deep pit with a radius of 1,000 meters appeared on the ground. Dust and gravel flew everywhere. The abyss-like ravine also collapsed on the spot, forming a huge pit with a radius of 10 miles. It was like a giant bowl. Endless clouds of dust covered the sky, and loud rumbling noises reverberated between heaven and earth, lasting for a long time. The area that was enveloped by the 5-colored light curtain fell into complete chaos and violence. Except for the purple-robed man, almost no one could survive in this area. They would be smashed into pieces in an instant by the terrifying force and hurricane. In the deepest part of the huge pit, a dazzling golden light could be vaguely seen. It was buried in endless dust, but it still emitted a dazzling golden light. After a long time, when the earth-shattering sound and the dust in the sky dissipated, the golden light shook off the dust and flew into the air. Swoosh! The golden light flashed, and the house-sized seal of mountains and rivers flew into the sky. It stopped 10 miles away from the purple-robed man. The seal of mountains and rivers looked unscathed. There was no scar on its surface. The light was still dazzling, and the aura was still sacred and majestic. After all, this magic treasure was a soul-grade magic treasure personally refined by an imperial monarch, so how could it be destroyed so easily? The purple-robed man stood in the sky, frowning as he looked at the intact seal of mountains and rivers. His expression became increasingly gloomy. His eyes flickered with a cold light as he cursed in a low voice, "Damnable little bastard, you actually used the Region Lord's golden seal to block my meteor palm." The purple-robed man had a high status and authority. Of course, he had seen the Domain Lord's golden seal before. He also knew that every Domain Lord's golden seal was a soul-grade magic treasure with very strong defensive capabilities. However, the Domain Master's golden seal was mainly used as a token and not a powerful magic treasure. He was confident that he would be able to break the seal within 3 moves. Even if Ji Tianqing was hiding in the golden seal, he could still tear Ji Tianqing into pieces. There was a space in the seal of mountains and rivers that looked like a secret chamber with a radius of 4 meters. Ji Tianqing was sitting cross-legged in the secret chamber. He took out a few spirit pills and swallowed them, hurriedly circulating his energy to suppress his injuries. While he was healing his injuries, his heart was filled with anxiety. He was thinking to himself, although the seal of mountains and rivers blocked the meteor palm, I am fine for now. However, the imperial tutor said that this seal of mountains and rivers can only help me block 3 fatal attacks from a soul-tempering stage powerhouse. The meteor palm just now has already weakened the power of the seal of mountains and rivers. The seal of mountains and rivers can at most block 2 more attacks before it can no longer protect me. At that time, I will definitely die. No, I have to think of another way to save my life. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he remembered that Yun Zhongqi had given him a magic cloud token when he had discussed cooperation with him at Cloud Soul Palace. At that time, Yun Zhongqi had said that he could use the magic cloud token to mobilize the Yun family's forces and the hidden cloud pavilion. Moreover, when he was in danger that he could not resolve, he could use the magic cloud token to send a message, and Yun Zhongqi would save him once. Although Uncle Yun might expose his identity by saving me and let the Duanmu family know about my relationship with Cloud Soul Palace, my life is in danger. I can't care about that much now. At that thought, Ji Tianqing quickly took out the magic cloud token from his infinite space ring. He left the secret room in the seal of mountains and rivers and stood on the golden seal. He activated the majestic true core in his body and infused it into the magic cloud token. Swoosh! The magic cloud token immediately lit up with a dazzling glow. It turned into a stream of light that was as sharp as a sword and flew into the sky. The purple-robed man had been staring at the seal of mountains and rivers. When he saw Ji Tianqing suddenly appear and release a signal arrow, he immediately sneered with disdain. What? You little bastard, you know that you are going to die, and you still want to send a message for help. Ha ha ha. Everything within a 20-mile radius has been sealed by my divine soul Dharma Eye. This is my divine soul territory. This area is under my control. Don't even think about sending a signal out. Even the heavens can't save you. The purple-robed man's tone was very confident and domineering. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the stream of light transformed from the magic cloud token pierced through the 5-colored sky with a whoosh and disappeared without a trace. The purple-robed man's face stiffened. A hint of anger flashed in his eyes. Bastard! Did you use a Dharma treasure to send a signal just now? Only a special soul-level Dharma treasure could pass through his divine soul territory. He immediately realized that Ji Tianqing must have sent a signal to ask for help from a soul-tempering realm powerhouse. Ji Tianqing was relieved when he saw that the magic cloud token had successfully passed through the 5-colored sky. He looked at the purple-robed man and said with a playful smile, "You must be very curious to know who I sent a signal to." "Who?" The purple-robed man asked subconsciously, a demon king? Or a powerhouse from the imperial court? Ji Tianqing's smile became more playful. He said with a smile, if you take off your mask, I will tell you the answer. The purple-robed man immediately frowned and sneered contemptuously, humph. You little bastard, you still want to negotiate with me? Wishful thinking. No matter who you ask for help, I can kill you in an instant. Ji Tianqing also understood this point. Of course, he was nervous and worried in his heart. However, he did not show it on his face and still looked fearless. He sneered and said, it doesn't matter if you don't take off your mask. Anyway, I have already guessed your identity. Do you want to know why I dared to kill Duanmu Yulong in front of everyone and destroy the 3 herb gardens? Hearing this, the purple-robed man's body suddenly trembled. His eyes were filled with anger and were dyed with a layer of blood. He originally wanted to kill Ji Tianqing as soon as possible to take revenge. However, he forcefully suppressed his anger and temporarily suppressed his killing intent. He did not make a move. Obviously, this question poked at his heart and aroused his anger. He was also eager to know the answer. The purple-robed man's whole body was filled with dark red killing intent. He stared at Ji Tianqing and asked in a deep voice, speak. Who ordered you to do this? Chapter 703. The purple-robed man was waiting for Ji Tianqing to give his answer, but he did not expect him to suddenly say such a thing. The purple-robed man was instantly enraged and shouted with murderous intent, Ji Tianqing. Don't keep me in suspense. If you know what's good for you, tell me obediently. Otherwise, when I catch you, I'll torture you and make you suffer all kinds of pain. Ji Tianqing pretended to be afraid and quickly waved his hand, all right, I know that you're cruel and merciless. I'll tell you. The reason why I can rise so quickly and dare to wage war against the Duanmu family is because I have a powerful backer. To tell you the truth, I have a deep relationship with the Fei Imperial Court and I have a deep relationship with the Murong family. If you don't want the Duanmu family to be doomed, you'd better let me go immediately. Otherwise, the Fei Imperial Court and the Murong family will avenge me and completely destroy the Duanmu family. Hearing his words, the purple-robed man's body trembled and his eyes shone brightly. What? Your backers are, the Fei Imperial Court and the Murong family? The purple-robed man immediately concluded that Ji Tianqing's words were half true and half false. He could not believe it. The Fei Imperial Court might be his backer, but the Murong family was definitely not. The purple-robed man could see that Ji Tianqing was deliberately lying and immediately shouted angrily, bullshit. You're spouting nonsense. How could the Murong family go against the Duanmu family? Such a clumsy attempt to sow discord. Do you think I'm as stupid as you? Ji Tianqing's expression was still calm and revealed an I knew it expression. He spread his hands and said, hee, I've already told you. You wouldn't believe me even if I told you. You must think that the Murong family is the Duanmu family's ally and that they're sincerely cooperating with the Duanmu family. Hee, if things are really that simple, you've underestimated the Murong family too much. In this world, the most terrifying enemies are those who hide in the dark and can't be seen. Duanmu Huang, that's all I have to say. You're on your own now. The purple-robed man immediately fell silent. His eyes kept changing and a look of doubt flashed across his eyes. Although Ji Tianqing's words sounded ridiculous, he instinctively did not believe them. However, he has a suspicious personality. Moreover, the Duanmu family has recently encountered a great change, while the Murong family is calm and peaceful. He couldn't help but suspect that the Murong family was really disloyal. Ji Tianqing couldn't help sneering inwardly when he saw the purple-robed man remaining silent and contemplating. Hee, Duanmu Huang, that old fox, even if he doesn't believe my words, he will definitely be suspicious and guard against the Murong family. Humph. Do you think my words are half true and half false? It's all fake. At this moment, the purple-robed man came back to his senses and shouted coldly, Ji Tianqing, you little bastard, you're really treacherous. Do you think you can stall for time and wait for reinforcements to arrive? I definitely won't fall for it. I'll tear you to shreds right now. After saying that, the purple-robed man waved his palms and formed a mysterious seal. He displayed a mysterious and powerful soul secret technique. He used the secret technique to control the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and gathered the power of his soul territory. He immediately condensed 2 giant 5-colored dragons that were 1,000 meters long. Moreover, the 5 soul Dharma eyes also released a dazzling white light, which condensed into 9 white light pillars. Heaven and Earth Tyrant Dragon. The purple-robed man shouted and waved his palms with all his might towards Ji Tianqing. Instantly, the 2 enormous 5-colored divine dragons, together with the 9 white light pillars, bombarded Ji Tianqing from all directions. Roar! The 2 5-colored dragons let out a resounding dragon roar. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they attacked, bursting forth with a destructive aura. The 9 white light pillars were as fast as the aurora. They instantly cut across 10 miles of the sky and arrived in front of Ji Tianqing. Despicable old thing, you can actually see that I'm deliberately stalling for time. Ji Tianqing's expression changed and he entered the seal of mountains and rivers without hesitation. At the same time, the 2 5-colored dragons that could destroy heaven and earth hit the seal of mountains and rivers hard. Then, the 9 white light pillars that contained terrifying soul strength also hit the seal of mountains and rivers. Bang, bang, bang. An earth-shattering explosion resounded through the sky, shaking the heavens and earth for hundreds of miles. The 2 5-colored dragons shattered on the spot, turning into light fragments that blotted out the sky and covered the entire divine soul domain. The 9 white light pillars also shattered, releasing terrifying soul strength that bombarded the seal of mountains and rivers. They wanted to kill Ji Tianqing through the seal of mountains and rivers. The soul strength was the most terrifying. It could penetrate iron walls and mountains and other objects to directly attack the soul of a person. Once Ji Tianqing's soul was destroyed, even if his physical body was unharmed, he would die instantly. However, when the emperor refined the seal of mountains and rivers, he set up a soul-level array restriction to block the soul strength attack of a soul-tempering elite. The powerful soul strength released by the 9 white light pillars was blocked and offset by the seal of mountains and rivers. It did not hurt Ji Tianqing. The seal of mountains and rivers was blown away on the spot and hit the 5-colored canopy hard, shaking the whole canopy. After a long time, the overwhelming 5-colored brilliance and the raging wind finally dissipated. The seal of mountains and rivers was still floating in the air and did not seem to have any scars or cracks. Ji Tianqing, who was hiding in the seal of mountains and rivers, was also not hurt. However, the power of the seal of mountains and rivers was greatly weakened and the golden light dimmed a lot. Ji Tianqing's expression became more and more serious. He murmured in a low voice, "It's the second move. The seal of mountains and rivers can help me block one more fatal attack, and then its power will be exhausted. No, I can't just sit here and wait for death. I have to find a way to escape." He made up his mind and immediately used his spiritual sense to control the seal of mountains and rivers to hit the 5-colored canopy not far away. Bang! The seal of mountains and rivers was as heavy as a mountain. When it hit the 5-colored canopy, there was a deafening loud noise. The entire sky began to shake violently, generating waves of ripples and creaking noises. However, the 5-colored canopy was condensed by 5 soul Dharma eyes after all, and its defensive power was terrifying. Even though the canopy was shaking, it was not broken and was still intact. The purple-robed man immediately showed a contemptuous look and sneered, "How ignorant you are. You are only at the sky origin stage. Even if you have a soul-level magic weapon, you can't exert much of its power. How dare you break my soul field? Ji Tianqing kept silent, but in his mind, he was calling the sword soul, the burial of heaven, by means of soul strength. Burial of heaven. Think of a way. If we can't escape from this field, we will all be doomed. The sword soul, the burial of heaven, had been sleeping for several months. Now its strength had recovered a little. Its vigorous voice sounded in Ji Tianqing's mind soon. Only those at the soul refining stage can exert the full power of the seal of mountains and rivers and break this soul field. However, if I consume the power I have accumulated in recent months, I can give it a try. Hearing the answer from the burial of heaven, Ji Tianqing was relieved and said hurriedly, "Okay, let's try our best." After saying that, he flew out of the seal of mountains and rivers. Standing in the sky, he slowly raised his right palm. Chapter 704. Ji Tianqing roared as he unleashed all his strength, activating the black hole in his right palm. Suddenly, the black hole turned into a pitch-black vortex that blotted out the sky, and a gigantic sword shadow flew out from it. This pitch-black sword was none other than the heaven-span sword steel in Kenshin's tomb. The huge black sword exuded a cold and murderous aura as it pierced toward the five-colored sky barrier with a mighty aura that could suppress everything. Ever since the Demon Emperor's appearance and the battle at the Sky Pillar sect, Ji Tianqing had never used the black hole in his right palm again, much less summoned the burial of heaven. Unless it was truly a matter of life and death, he would never have the burial of heaven take action. After all, the burial of heaven would be severely injured the moment it took action, and it would take a long time to recover. And this time, Ji Tianqing was being intercepted by the purple-robed man, and his life was on the line. Left with no choice, he could only use the heaven-span sword steel and use this trump card. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the giant sword slammed into the five-colored sky barrier, causing a loud explosion that shook the heavens to erupt. The incomparably strong defense of the sky barrier was actually blasted open by the giant sword, and dense cracks began to appear on the barrier. At that moment, the world was filled with a bone-chilling sword chi that could destroy the world. Even though the purple-robed man was a soul-tempering cultivator, he was still intimidated by the terrifying sword intent and aura of the massive sword. Fear appeared in his eyes. What is that? How could it have such terrifying power and aura? He couldn't understand what this thing was that even a soul-tempering cultivator like him was afraid of. Could it be a primordial spirit treasure, a supreme treasure that could be called a divine artifact? The purple-robed man was stunned for a moment, but he immediately recovered and charged at the seal of mountains and rivers to intercept Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing! You little beast, don't even think about escaping. But by the time the purple-robed man came to his senses, Ji Tianqing had already put away the heaven-span sword steel and passed through the gap in the sky curtain. Shwa! He controlled the seal of mountains and rivers and rushed out of the spiritual domain. Instantly, the pressure on him was greatly reduced, and his flying speed doubled. He didn't even turn around to look at the situation behind him. He released his most boundless true essence, urging the mountain and river seal to fly through the sky, fleeing back to Central Continent City as fast as lightning. The size of the seal of mountains and rivers had shrunk by 10 times. It shone with a dazzling golden light, dragging a long golden flame behind it as it streaked across the sky at lightning speed. The purple-robed man was incomparably furious. He hurriedly withdrew his spiritual domain and chased after Ji Tianqing as fast as he could. 5 divine soul Dharma eyes floated behind him, and in his left palm was a foot-tall, dark green small tree. The small tree looked like a sapling, but in fact, it had luxuriant branches and leaves, and its trunk was thick and ancient. It was an ancient tree that had lived for thousands of years. This was the purple-robed man's magic treasure, the famous green light treasure tree. The 5 divine soul Dharma eyes released a boundless power, which poured into the green light treasure tree, causing the treasure tree to emit a dark green brilliance, releasing an invisible mysterious power. The invisible power released by the green light treasure tree caused the purple-robed man's figure to become illusory, blurred, like a shadow. Shwa! He took a step, and in an instant, he crossed 3 kilometers in the sky, quickly closing the distance between him and Ji Tianqing. Originally, the purple-robed man had been left behind by Ji Tianqing for more than 20 miles. However, after taking more than 10 steps in the sky, he quickly caught up to Ji Tianqing. After 20 breaths, the purple-robed man relied on the miraculous effects of the green light treasure tree to overtake Ji Tianqing, blocking his path. Ji Tianqing. You will die today without a doubt, there is no way you can escape. The purple-robed man blocked Ji Tianqing, and shouted angrily. Ji Tianqing's path was blocked, and he had no choice but to stop. His eyes gloomily looked at the purple-robed man. Damn it! He really does have a Dharma treasure that can teleport. He can cross several miles in one step. How can I escape? Ji Tianqing was full of anxiety, and he secretly thought of a way to escape. At this time, the purple-robed man raised his right hand, and with a wave of his sleeve, a 5-colored spiritual light covered the sky and earth. 5-direction dragon slash. In an instant, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth within a radius of dozens of miles was absorbed by the purple-robed man. There was a lush forest below, but it withered and decayed on the spot, turning into a patch of yellow rotten wood. The 2,000-meter-tall mountains also silently collapsed, turning into an endless amount of earth elemental power. The 5-colored spiritual light covered the sky, and condensed into 5 giant axes that could split the sky and earth. Carrying the blazing white flame formed by the spiritual energy, they slashed towards Ji Tianqing. The 5 giant axes attacked Ji Tianqing from 5 directions, and sealed off the sky and earth within a radius of 10 miles. Ji Tianqing still had no way to escape, and the seal of mountains and rivers was also suppressed by the violent and terrifying power, and its speed became much slower. At this critical moment, he had no time to think. He could only desperately urge the defensive power of the seal of mountains and rivers to resist the attack of the 5 giant axes. Boom, boom, boom. In the next moment, the 5 giant axes hit the seal of mountains and rivers almost at the same time, and a series of earth-shattering noises erupted. The sky and earth were suddenly filled with endless 5-colored spiritual light, and everything became chaotic. The forest within a radius of 15 miles was immediately crushed into powder, mixed with the soil and dust, and turned into a dark green torrent, spreading in all directions. The 3,000-foot tall mountains collapsed in an instant, and turned into yellow soil and ruins. Such shocking destructive power was truly enough to destroy the heavens and earth. The earth-shattering noises reverberated between heaven and earth for a long time. The 5-colored spiritual light and dust that covered the sky gradually dissipated after a long time. When the sky and earth returned to peace, the mountains and forests within a radius of 15 miles were razed to the ground, and became uneven ruins. The purple-robed man stood high in the sky, looking down at the ruins below with a gloomy face and cold eyes. Even if the territorial master's golden seal is a soul-level spiritual treasure, it should be broken now, right? He murmured in a low voice, and used his spiritual eye to search the ruins below for traces of the territorial master's golden seal and Ji Tianqing. Soon, his spiritual eye saw that in the ruins 10 miles to the southwest, there was a mound of soil that moved a few times. The mound of soil that was hundreds of meters high collapsed with a crash, and a lot of soil splashed out. When the soil scattered, a dark golden seal drilled out from the ground. It was a golden seal with a radius of 3 meters, and it was the seal of mountains and rivers. However, it was not as dazzling as before, and its aura was sacred and powerful. At this moment, it had become dim, and its aura was very weak. It did not have the majestic and domineering aura that could suppress heaven and earth and encompass mountains and rivers. Seeing this, the purple-robed man frowned and cursed with a gloomy look in his eyes. Damn it! After taking 3 fatal blows from me, the territorial master's golden seal is still not broken. The golden seal that the emperor gave Ji Tianqing was not an ordinary territorial master's golden seal, but a middle-grade soul-level spiritual treasure with a more powerful array restriction added. Chapter 705. The purple-robed man knew very well that an ordinary domain lord's golden seal was only an inferior-grade soul-grade dharma treasure. The golden seal represented the domain lord's identity, so it was even more symbolic. Its actual use was not very strong for a soul refinement realm cultivator. The purple-robed man was confident that he could shatter an ordinary golden seal within 3 moves. However, Ji Tianqing's seal of mountains and rivers was still intact after withstanding 3 fatal blows. The purple-robed man immediately concluded that this golden seal must be a middle-grade soul-grade dharma treasure. Moreover, the imperial emperor had set up a restriction array on the golden seal, so its defensive power was very strong and could save lives at critical moments. From this point alone, he could guess that the imperial emperor had taken special care of Ji Tianqing. This made him wonder if Ji Tianqing really had a close relationship with the imperial court. At this moment, the seal of mountains and rivers exploded with a golden light and flew into the sky towards the east. The purple-robed man frowned, and a cold light surged in his eyes. He sneered, "Little bastard, you still don't want to give up and want to escape. I've already broken the golden seal's restriction array. Let's see if you can survive this time." As he spoke, the purple-robed man activated the power of the green light treasure tree. He crossed thousands of meters in the sky and chased after the seal of mountains and rivers. In just 10 short breaths, he caught up to the seal of mountains and rivers and blocked it in the sky. 1,000 mountains collapse. The purple-robed man shouted in a low voice. He held the green light treasure tree in his right hand and slashed at the seal of mountains and rivers. Suddenly, the dark green light treasure tree bloomed with thousands of 5-colored spiritual lights and slashed at the seal of mountains and rivers with the power to destroy everything. Each 5-colored spiritual light was 10 miles long, like a rainbow across the sky. Thousands of spiritual lights cut through the sky at the same time, like thousands of rainbows appearing, causing the sky within 100 miles to be dazzling and gorgeous. Although the scene was beautiful, the power of this Dharma spell was unparalleled. The thousands of spiritual lights were enough to destroy the land within 100 miles and crush thousands of mountains into ruins. The weakened seal of mountains and rivers could not block the green light treasure tree's Dharma spell. Thousands of 5-colored spiritual lights descended from the sky and enveloped the seal of mountains and rivers. In the next moment, the seal of mountains and rivers was about to be shattered into pieces. Ji Tianqing would not be able to escape either, he would certainly be reduced to ashes. At this moment, the sky 1,000 meters to the left of the seal of mountains and rivers suddenly twisted and rippled. Shwa! A tall figure appeared in the sky out of thin air. This person was dressed in a loose black robe and wore a specially made black gold mask, revealing only a pair of eyes that were as deep as the ocean. Just like the purple-robed man, he had concealed his true appearance. However, his bearing was extraordinary. His entire body exuded the imposing aura of a transcendent, and he wasn't any weaker than the purple-robed man. A mighty soul refinement realm expert actually needs to use the Azure Radiance treasure tree to deal with a junior? Ha! The Duanmu clan's face has been completely thrown away by you. The black-robed man sneered disdainfully. He waved his right palm like lightning and shot out a dazzling white light. The dazzling white light that was over 1,000 meters long was actually a white dragon that was completely white and extremely majestic. Roar! The holy and powerful white dragon instantly flew around the seal of mountains and rivers and circled around it, protecting the seal of mountains and rivers. When tens of thousands of 5-colored spiritual lights slashed down, the holy white dragon waved its 5 dragon claws and swept its huge dragon tail, shooting out a white light that covered the entire sky. The 5-colored spiritual lights collided with the dazzling white light, causing a deafening explosion that reverberated across a radius of 100 miles. Bam, bam, bam. The two types of light exploded at the same time, turning into tens of millions of light shards that swept up a destructive hurricane and spread in all directions. Instantly, everything within a radius of 100 miles fell into chaos and became chaotic. The sky shook violently, and ripples appeared as if it was about to shatter. The undulating mountain ranges on the ground, dozens of majestic peaks, and endless dark green forests were all blasted into dust. In the blink of an eye, everything within a radius of 100 miles was turned into ruins, leaving behind a gigantic crater. After a few years, if this crater was filled with rainwater, it would become a 100-mile-wide lake. In the sky, the raging wind and dust were still dancing in the air. The holy white dragon blocked the tens of thousands of spiritual lights and successfully protected the seal of mountains and rivers. It hurriedly flew back to the black-robed man's side and quickly shrank a few hundred times, turning into a snow-white dragon spear that floated beside the black-robed man. In the sky 5 kilometers away, the purple-robed man stared at the black-robed man and the snow-white dragon spear. After seeing the snow-white dragon spear clearly, his expression changed, and he let out an incredulous roar. "Bai Long Yin! It's you!" Bai Long Yin was the name of the snow-white dragon spear. This was a dragon spear that had been passed down for thousands of years, and it was a top-notch soul-level magic treasure. The purple-robed man instantly guessed the black-robed man's identity based on that dragon spear. Bai Long Yin was a top-notch soul-level magic treasure like the green light treasure tree. However, Bai Long Yin's killing power was stronger, and the green light treasure tree's main function was not to kill, but to nurture all living things. The two magic treasures had different natures and effects. If they were to really fight, Bai Long Yin would obviously be superior. The purple-robed man held the green light treasure tree and stared fiercely at the black-robed man. He was so angry that he did not know what to say. Ji Tianqing and Cloud Soul Palace really have a close relationship. Even he personally came to save Ji Tianqing. Damn it! I should have thought of this long ago. If Cloud Soul Palace was not behind this, how would Ji Tianqing dare to destroy my Duanmu family's herb garden? He guessed the other party's identity and finally understood the truth. He was instantly shocked and angry, and he roared in his heart. At this moment, a golden light flashed from the seal of mountains and rivers, and a handsome and valiant figure flew out. Swoosh! The white-robed Ji Tianqing flew into the sky with a pale face and hurriedly put away the seal of mountains and rivers. His body seemed to be unharmed, but in reality, his internal organs had been damaged. His injuries were quite serious, and his combat power had been greatly reduced. Phew! Fortunately, Uncle arrived in time. Otherwise, I would have lost my life. Ji Tianqing heaved a sigh of relief and thought to himself that he was lucky. He turned his head to look at the black-robed man not far away. He saw that the black-robed man was wearing a mask that covered his face, and he could not help but be stunned. Uncle actually changed his clothes and even wore a mask. But he used his natal magic treasure. The other party would definitely recognize him. Isn't this unnecessary? Ji Tianqing looked at the black-robed man and then looked at the purple-robed man. He thought to himself, both of them have guessed each other's identity, but both of them have to disguise their identities. It seems that they do not want to fall out with each other for the time being. They want to fight openly to prevent the imperial court from interfering. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing understood the crux of the matter. He hurriedly flew to the black-robed man's side and cupped his hands in respect. Thank you for saving me, Senior. Chapter 706. This is not the place to talk. Let's leave this place first. The black-robed man's voice rang in Ji Tianqing's mind. After that, he looked at the purple-robed man 10 miles away and said in a confident and overbearing tone, "With me around, you can't hurt him. Leave quickly." The purple-robed man frowned fiercely and his eyes were as cold as ice. Although he knew what the other party said was right, he was not reconciled and was so angry that he almost went berserk. He held the green light treasure tree tightly and said in a cold tone, "I heard that you went into seclusion for 3 years and only came out 2 months ago. You've already mastered the Cloud Dragon's 6 transformations. I wonder if it's true." The black-robed man raised his eyebrows and sneered, "You're well informed. Looks like you won't give up if I don't let you see my divine skill." When his voice fell, he suddenly activated his divine skill and his whole body burst out with a powerful aura. Swoosh! A dazzling white light appeared and immediately condensed into 6 huge divine soul Dharma eyes behind him. The 6 divine soul Dharma eyes were arranged in 6 directions and slowly rotated, emitting a majestic aura, making him as mysterious and majestic as a god. When the purple-robed man saw the 6 divine soul Dharma eyes appear, his pupils shrank and he whispered to himself, as expected. "I didn't expect you to break through to the 6th stage before me." The black-robed man sneered and said in a mocking tone, "Now, do you still want to humiliate yourself?" His strength was 1 stage higher than the purple-robed man and Bai Longyan's killing power was stronger than the green light treasure tree. If the 2 of them fought, the purple-robed man would definitely be defeated. The purple-robed man also understood this point but he was not reconciled and shouted in a low voice, "So what if you reached the 6th stage first? No one can stop me from killing Ji Tianqing." He roared and crazily activated his power. He used a secret method to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within 100 miles and poured it into the green light treasure tree. The green light treasure tree suddenly expanded and turned into a towering tree that was thousands of feet tall. It bloomed with colorful rays that covered the sky. Seeing this scene, the black-robed man's expression immediately changed, and his eyes darkened. He reached out to grab Ji Tianqing and put him into the black thumb ring on his left thumb. Ji Tianqing only saw a flash of brilliance in front of his eyes, and then he entered a space similar to a secret chamber. This was the internal space of a soul-grade magic treasure. There was also a similar space in the seal of mountains and rivers. The black-robed man did this to protect him from the aftermath of the battle. After all, the shockwaves from the battle between 2 spirit-refining stage cultivators could destroy the world. It was not something a divine origin stage cultivator could handle. After a few breaths, the purple-robed man pushed his power to the limit. He used both of his palms to cast a mysterious spell, controlling the towering tree to smash towards the black-robed man. Heaven-breaking divine light. Following his angry roar, the towering giant tree released more than 36,000 7-colored light pillars, like a rainbow cutting through the sky, slashing toward the black-robed man. The black-robed man's eyes were cold as he shouted in a deep voice, "Since you insist on humiliating yourself, I'll fulfill your wish." As he spoke, he also used 100% of his power, using his left palm to cast a spell, using the power of the 6 divine soul Dharma eyes. He waved his right sleeve and released the white dragon's roar, which turned into a 1,000 feet long divine dragon, fiercely attacking the green light treasure tree. Dragon battle in the star field. Following the black-robed man's angry roar, the 1,000 feet long divine dragon soared into the sky, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it attacked the green light treasure tree. Bang, bang, bang. Boom. The sky full of white light and the 7-colored light pillars collided, creating a series of muffled sounds. Immediately after, the 1,000 feet long divine dragon fiercely attacked the green light treasure tree, creating a loud explosion that shook the sky. Instantly, the area within a radius of 200 miles was shaken, and layers of ripples appeared in the sky. Heaven and earth were turbid, filled with 7-colored light, dazzling and dazzling. The destructive shockwaves spread out like ripples, immediately destroying everything within a radius of 100 miles. This area was already in ruins, and after being swept by the shockwaves of the battle, it suddenly became 1,000 feet deep abyss. The area within a radius of 100 miles was also affected. Countless cracks appeared on the ground, mountains collapsed, and large patches of forest were crushed into powder. What a heaven-destroying, earth-shattering showdown. In the turbid sky, the black-robed man still stood proudly, with the 6 divine soul Dharma eyes floating behind him, and the 1,000-feet-long divine dragon flying in the sky before him. However, the purple-robed man was blasted dozens of miles away, crashing heavily into the ruins below, creating a 1,000-meter deep hole in the ground. The 1,000-feet-tall green light treasure tree also dimmed. Hundreds of pieces of paper were broken, and thousands of green leaves were scattered. After each millstone-sized leaf fell to the ground, it turned into a rich green with spiritual light, quickly dissolving and dissipating. The purple-robed man climbed out of the ruins in a sorry state, and used his power to shake off the dust on his body. His face was pale, and he panted. His eyes flashed with anger and grief, and his body surged with a dark red murderous aura. Seeing that many branches and leaves of the towering tree were broken, his heart ached. He wanted to tear the black-robed man and Ji Tianqing into pieces. However, he could only think about it. It was impossible for him to do it today. The black-robed man's strength was even stronger than before. If he continued to fight, he would definitely be injured today. When he thought of this, he suppressed the humiliation he felt and shouted coldly, "I will remember this. Just you wait. One day, I will flatten Cloud Spirit Palace." After saying this, the purple-robed man put away the green light treasure tree, crossed thousands of meters in the sky with a single step, and quickly teleported away. The black-robed man stood high in the sky, watching the purple-robed man's figure disappear, but he did not chase after him. He waved his hand, and the 1,000-feet-long divine dragon turned back into a snow-white dragon spear, shrank into a silver needle, and put it into his body. He withdrew his powerful aura, and the 6 divine soul Dharma eyes behind him quickly disappeared. He turned back into an ordinary person. Of course, even if he did not use his magic power or release his aura, he still had the aura of a superior and the mysterious aura of a powerhouse. He reached out and took off the black gold mask, revealing a resolute, thin, and angular face. Without a doubt, he was the palace master of Cloud Spirit Palace, Yun Yao's father, Yun Zhongqi. Yun Zhongqi flicked his left hand, and a flash of white light appeared on his black thumb ring. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing flew out of the ring's internal space and appeared in the sky. He looked around and saw that the battle was over, and the purple-robed man had escaped far away. Only then did he bow to Yun Zhongqi. "Uncle Yun, thank you for saving my life." Yun Zhongqi raised his hand and gestured for him to rise. He said calmly, "You don't have to thank me. This was our agreement. However, you must be careful from now on. If there are no special circumstances, it is best not to leave the imperial residence. Duanmu Huang has gone crazy. He actually tried to kill you himself. I did not expect this." Chapter 707. When he mentioned the Duanmu Huang, the anger in Ji Tianqing's eyes did not dissipate. He laughed coldly, "Humph. This means that I destroyed the Duanmu family's herb garden and caused the Duanmu family to fall into dire straits. If not for this, the Duanmu Huang would not have been so furious and attacked me without regard for his status." After a pause, he said apologetically to Yun Zhongqi, "Uncle Yun, we agreed to work together and I would deal with the Duanmu family. Now that you have appeared to save me, even if you are wearing a mask, the Duanmu Huang will definitely recognize you. The Duanmu Huang already knows about my relationship with Cloud Soul Palace. I am truly sorry for dragging Cloud Soul Palace into this." Without waiting for him to finish, Yun Zhongqi waved his hand and said, "Tianqing, you don't have to blame yourself. This is a grudge between Cloud Soul Palace and the Duanmu family. You were able to destroy the Duanmu family's herb garden, which is a great contribution. You have already greatly reduced the pressure on Cloud Soul Palace. Now that the Duanmu family is in a precarious situation, even if the Duanmu Huang knows that you are working with Cloud Soul Palace, what can they do to me? Cloud Soul Palace is not afraid of a direct battle with the Duanmu family. Furthermore, I will take advantage of this victory and completely destroy the Duanmu family. Speaking up to this point, Yun Zhongqi thought of something important and said to Ji Tianqing in a serious tone, Tianqing, previously your aunt asked Yao Yao to pass a message to you. You already know about that matter, right? Yao Yao's grandfather, Miracle Dr. Bailey, is about to return to Zhongzhou. Next month is his 300th birthday. When the time comes, I hope that you can attend the birthday banquet and meet with Yao Yao's grandfather. Ji Tianqing immediately revealed a wisp of a smile, cupped his hands, and bowed. Since uncle has invited me, Junior will naturally accept. Yun Zhongqi nodded slightly and said earnestly, since that is the case, then you should return to the imperial residence. During this period of time, try to be as careful as possible. Don't let yourself fall into dire straits. Although I can save you once, I can't protect you for long. Ji Tianqing nodded to express his understanding. Then, he bowed and bid farewell to Yun Zhongqi before turning around and flying toward Central Continent City. Yun Zhongqi stood high in the sky and watched his back disappear into the distance before leaving quietly. Inside the imperial residence, Cloud Palace. 5 colored spirit clouds enveloped the Yunshao Palace, making the majestic palace look like a fairyland. Outside the gate of the palace, there were 18 guards in armor and carrying swords, looking solemn and dignified. A young man in a blue robe, who was even more beautiful than a woman, was waiting outside the door. His left hand was behind his back, and his right hand was holding a green jade folding fan. His entire body exuded a noble and graceful aura. Without a doubt, this handsome man was precisely Murong Lingfeng. He looked calmly at Yunshao Palace. His gaze passed through the door and into the palace. His eyes were filled with anticipation and longing. About half a quarter of an hour later, an armored guard walked out of the palace and quickly returned to the gate. This person came in front of Murong Lingfeng and respectfully cupped his hands. Young Master Murong, the heavenly concubine has been busy cultivating in seclusion recently and is unable to see you. Please return. Hearing the guard's words, Murong Lingfeng's eyes instantly dimmed. A deep sense of disappointment flashed through his eyes. He didn't say anything and expressionlessly turned around to leave. He walked into the distance. This is already the 3rd time I've come to find Suwen. Ever since she entered the imperial residence, I haven't seen her even once. Did Long Yunshao imprison her in the palace and forbid her from coming out? Or is Suwen unwilling to see me? The emperor is clearly heartless to her, and I'm infatuated with her. Why is she so indifferent and unwilling to see me? Murong Lingfeng silently muttered to himself. His mood was very low, and his eyes were a little gloomy. Not far from Yunshao Palace and just as he was about to fly into the sky, a graceful figure suddenly appeared under a large tree by the side of the road. It was a beautiful woman dressed in a long brocade dress. She was dressed like a female official. Her face was delicate, and her eyes were lively. She gave off a delicate feeling that made people want to cherish her. Seeing this woman suddenly appear, Murong Lingfeng was startled. He frowned and said, "You're Lan Huixin. Why are you here?" Lan Huixin walked lightly to Murong Lingfeng. She smiled and bowed. Using a clear and pleasant voice, she said, "Huixin greets young Master Murong." "Greetings, young master." Murong Lingfeng looked at her expressionlessly and said indifferently, "Lan Huixin, aren't you Yun Yao's female official? Why did you come to Yunshao Palace?" Lan Huixin's face revealed a surprised expression. She smiled faintly and said, "I didn't expect young Master Murong to be so well informed. You even know that I'm Yun Yao's female official." Murong Lingfeng said expressionlessly, "How can this young master's power and methods be what you can imagine?" Lan Huixin maintained her smile and said respectfully, "Huixin is ignorant. Young master's family background is extraordinary. Naturally, you're well informed. You can sit at home and know about the world." Murong Lingfeng frowned and looked at her. He said indifferently, you suddenly appeared and stopped me. What do you want to say? Lan Huixin's beautiful eyes turned. She said with a smile that wasn't a smile, young Master Murong often comes to Yunxiao Palace. You're not here to visit the Emperor, right? If I'm not wrong, you must be worried about Heavenly Consort and Suwen. You want to see her face and comfort your lovesickness, right? Unfortunately, and Suwen is infatuated with the Emperor and has become the Imperial Court's Heavenly Consort. Why do you keep thinking about her? Murong Lingfeng frowned and looked at her indifferently. He asked, the Emperor has already chosen his Heavenly Consort. You have no hope of becoming a Heavenly Consort. Why do you want to stay by Yunyao's side and be a lowly female official? You're wasting your youth and delaying your future cultivation. At this point, Lan Huixin revealed a helpless expression. She laughed bitterly and self-mockingly, hee, it seems that young master is the same as me. We're both people who have fallen from grace. Since that's the case, why don't we work together and achieve our wishes? You work together with this young master. Murong Lingfeng raised his eyebrows and revealed a disdainful sneer. Hee, with your status and power, what qualifications do you have to talk about working together with this young master? Lan Huixin was looked down upon and humiliated, but she wasn't angry at all. She said with a solemn expression, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao have a close relationship. The Emperor also has a close relationship with them. Their relationship isn't shallow. Although An Suwen is a heavenly consort, she's all alone in Yunxiao Palace. She's filled with worry and resentment all day long. Young Master Murong, what if I can make the Emperor and Ji Tianqing fall out and cause a misunderstanding between the Emperor and Yunyao? Then An Suwen will misunderstand the Emperor and be sad and disappointed. Wouldn't the enmity between these four be exactly what you want? Wouldn't it be greatly beneficial to you? Murong Lingfeng coldly stared at Lan Huixin and asked, the Emperor and Yunyao have a misunderstanding, causing Suwen to be sad and disappointed in the Emperor. This is indeed beneficial to this young master. However, so what if the Emperor and Ji Tianqing fall out and become enemies? What does it have to do with this young master? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.